did everybody? Now I can't cuss. What the hell?
Oh, you're on record now.
I already did, didn't I? See, that was sort of subconsciously purposeful, so I could just get that out of the way. I'm off script most of the time, by the way. Nope. Of course you can't. So here's the thing about it. I guess I start with who I am, where I came from, and why Bruce would invite me in. I'm from Atlanta, as we discussed, and I was 30. I had long hair, which I'm going back to that look, and I'm not sure why. I'm probably going to cut it soon because every time I see someone with long hair, I laugh out loud. I'm like older people with long hair, but I'm also in a band. So there's artistic thing that's sort of in my identity until I was 30 was kind of tied up in being in music. I had an original band with a couple CDs, and just for the record, we didn't make a nickel net after paying our bar tab when we play out. We weren't that heavy drinkers. We just didn't make a lot of money. And I think our claim to fame, who do we open for? Tim McGraw and who's the other muscle guy? Chesney. Now, we got the invitation to open for them. We weren't really a country band, so that was odd. My first thought. We were in the parking lot at this amphitheater. We weren't really on the stage with them, but we played before them, right? No. So technically we opened up. I'm going to own that. But at 30, I realized that gig wasn't going to pay for a big life, create an experience on Marco one day. And so at 30, I went into real estate at the suggestion of a good friend, and best decision I ever made. It was 1996. I just turned 56. So you can do the math, 30 years. It's kind of blown by. It's like crazy how fast things go. But I did really well early on. And I think the reason I did is that I just outworked everybody. And I brought as much positive energy to every conversation as I could. And I tried to bring value to every conversation so that people felt this compelling desire to help. Like, people like to help good people, and I want to be a good person. So I worked really hard at becoming the best version of me. In the process of doing that, opportunities and doors opened. In my 4th year in the business, I had worked my way up to, I had an assistant and a buyer's agent on my team, and I think we're on pace to make 400 or 500, which, you know, at 34, 5 years old, I was feeling pretty good about myself. But I think I won because I outworked, and I was out just literally slayed as best I could every day. But at 34, I got a tap on the shoulder from a friend in my office.
My figure is a clip and minimize.
Dude. Mutants. Thank you.
Thanks, J.D.
Is that a speaker? I just talked into it like it was my microphone. I'm not a singer, by the way, in my band. That was the real flaw in music. If I could actually sing, I would probably still be trying to make money because I would feel in control, but I'm not happy not being in control. And when singers come and go and they're dysfunctional if they're talented and they're great writers, and which is awesome until it's not. So I got tapped on the shoulder, an opportunity to open a Keller Williams office with a friend. It was the very first office in Atlanta, in fact. And I knew it was a good company. I did a little research and kind of noodled around and called some people, and I didn't go out to Austin to confirm it, but I just knew based on the people that I knew that knew people. And I bet on the jockey, not the horse, which is one of the theories I bring to life. It seems to work over and over and over. Good people know good people, and good people figure it out, and really talented people figure it out faster. And so I bet on the jockey, which was Sean Rawls, and we opened that first office in 2000, the beginning of 2000. And 2001, I decided to open my own office. So I had a really small vested stake in that one as an agent. In 2001, I opened an office. 2003, they let me open another one. 2005, I was on my 3rd. Things were going well. And then 2007 hit. Anybody remember that era? Rocky, to say the least. But you know what's cool? I was ready for it. I had cash reserves and was able to do some creative investing. And I also, because of the uncertainty, all of a sudden the people that weren't really vested and full-time and really committed fell off. Like, all my competition went away. And so there wasn't a lot to eat, you know, at the buffet. There was far fewer opportunities, but there were far fewer people trying to eat it. After about a year, most people who are half-hearted about it quit. And so the beautiful thing about today's conversation is how can you craft a vision that outruns, you know, the cycles of life and the cycles of experiences and the cycles of business. So at that point, I quit opening offices, but I started buying offices. And so I bought 3 more offices over the next 4 or 5 years. And in 2012, I bought the last 2. We had 6 offices. The last year that I had all 6, which was only 3 years ago. And then last year I replaced myself in my role. So my active role, We did I think we did 3.4 billion in volume just in Atlanta, 12,500 units just in just my 6 offices. There are 15 to 20 other offices in Atlanta. So I only share that to give you the scope of kind of how things happen. And what I've learned about life is things happen slowly and then suddenly. You get that? Everything progressive. I'll be chopping wood, trying to make it. And I just kind of like little slivers. And at some point you keep chopping, you look over your shoulder, you're like, holy cow, there's like a big old pile of results that I did, and then it shows up. And it's funny, I think Hemingway wrote about it in one of his books about how, I guess it was a character in a book, often mislabeled or apparently applied to his life where he went bankrupt, but I don't know if it's totally true. Or, people often write about their own stories using other people's names in their books. But it said he went bankrupt at one point, and when asked how he went bankrupt, he said slowly, suddenly. And so that's how wealth building works. That's how relationship investing often works. It's, who has kids? Anybody have kids? Kids, I know. You keep pouring into them, you're like, you're not listening. They don't care. They're so in their own lane. They'd rather play Xbox than listen to dad profess about anything. And then one day they wake up and they come up, and I hope it happens to everybody, and they start to go, hey, remember that book you said I should read? I actually cracked it open. Or, hey, remember when, or hey, and all of a sudden they're asking curiosity-rich questions based on an experience that you didn't think they could 2 squats about. And so it's like slowly, and then all of a sudden they wake up realizing there's some value there. But life's that way. So so you guys realize this is a long class. Are you in it for the long haul? You're not going to leave, are you? I know your style. You're already ready to leave. You're itching. If you need to leave, I'll only take mild offense. And I'll save the best stuff for right after you leave. So just know there's a price to be paid. The reason it's long isn't because I just like babbling. I just want to plant enough seeds that you truly get inspired by the content of the conversation. So I'm not really a rule follower by nature. So if you need a bio break or go get another sandwich, just ease over and back. It's cool. I really, and I'm kidding about if you had to leave. If you have to leave, you have to leave. But I think one of the things, we invest a lot of time and energy in other people and other circumstances and what we see as opportunity. And most of them don't turn into anything particularly big. I mean, you have to swing at everything, but investing in yourself is a guarantee. There's an outcome that's virtually guaranteed because it's your decision and you're in control, and no one else can dictate whether they buy it, don't buy it, the inspection screws it up, or the appraisal, or their fill in the blank, whatever stops things from happening. You control whether things happen or don't happen. So I'd like to think today might be one of your better days if you really commit to making a difference, and by paying attention and maybe recalibrating your lens and how you look out into the world. Because the context of this class is the content that went into a book that I'm close to finishing another book, just to remind myself there's physical evidence that this will be in hardbound in 6 months, maybe sooner. I'm down to the last edits, it's graphic design and some art. But this started 10 years ago. And it started with, so you guys know why you're here, by the way. Do you know what you're going to walk out with? I probably should have started with that. 5-year plan. A 5-year plan, a holistic plan, a whole life plan. This was on a 5-year plan 10 years ago. It should have been done in the first 5, but I had other things going on. But because I let it roll, you get rollover minutes in life until you don't, just to be fair. Yeah, it can take, but writing a book's a weird thing because there's so much on it. Like, I'm all about being open and honest. And there's some people still alive that had bad moments. And I think those moments lead to lessons and opportunities and silver lining experiences. And so there's a little sensitivity. I'm making excuses right now, to be honest. This is the story you tell yourself, though, right? Maybe I should defer, delay, or deflect. And that's where it is. But I'm at the tipping point. But because I took the time to do what you're going to work on today, something really, I think, I mean, it sounds boastful to call it a legacy thing, but I want my kids to read it. If you guys read it, that's great. But I want my family, my descendants to go, it's not impossible that I leave behind some financial opportunities that didn't exist for me. Didn't wake up with a trust fund. My parents were poor immigrants, basically. Paid my own way through college, selling subscriptions to a newspaper door to door. I just was resourceful, and I was scrappy, and I worked hard. And that was kind of my MO. My kids don't work that hard. They just don't. And I'm a little concerned. I am but they're all, I don't know that college is the path for everybody. And I don't think college paved the way to this story that I'm sharing, but it didn't hurt. It gave me time to grow up, and I learned how to be diligent and follow rules and check boxes because the teacher told me I had to get through a class. There's some merit. And I learned a few business principles at getting a degree, but my kids are great, but they don't wake up stressed about paying a bill right now, and they're all in their early 20s and 2 are still in college. So they definitely don't wake up concerned. Although one graduates in 3 weeks, you better start thinking about it. The other 2 do okay. They do well. I'm proud of them. So don't misread it. But I want their kids, like if this generational wealth thing that I wrote into my, there's a chapter on it that I hope they subscribe to and create pathways to not necessarily an easy life, but just more abundant, potential filled life to make a difference. And not just because you're selfishly buying Porsches and bigger houses. Money's only good for the good that it does. And I want them to read and hear that when I'm long gone and they can't hear it from me. So the point of all this, that wouldn't happen without this. And I hope there's some things that show up today that you go, all right, maybe not today, but someday. What I know is people overestimate annual goals and underestimate 5-year potential. Anybody have annual goals? Anybody have goals? Wake up with a goal. Okay. Have you ever come up short? Like every I don't know. Every now and then I'll fly through something, but it's not because I've set stupid big goals. Why set, if you can jump over it, don't even write it down, just go jump over it. That said, one of the questions my mentor, Bob Kalinsky, who was the regional director in Atlanta, said once, he goes, how many of you been in business at least 5 years? And how about 10? And like half the class, how many of you have had a 10-year career or 10 one-year careers? You kind of go, kind of a different story when you stop and back the car up over the dead body. Like, yeah, I just keep running over that over and over every year. And then I start over and I restart the car and I run over and I do a loop. And so the concept behind today is to open up that lens and go, okay, play the what if game. What if I had infinite resources? What if I had an infinite database of people who sent me ridiculous numbers of referrals? What if I started my own company or took my team to another level? What if I quit working weekends ever and no nights? And what if I was a better fill in the blank, parent, spouse, friend? What if I took 10 trips a year? Maybe you do already. I was a workaholic for a few decades before I finally took a deep breath and realized the compromises I was making didn't really add up to the benefit I was getting. Does that make sense? Anybody go on vacation? I know it's rhetorical. What about the day before vacation? What does that usually look like? You slay dragons, like stuff. You're like, I don't know how I did all that in a day. Oh, and got 3 offers the day before. Anybody get all of their offers typically come in right before you go out of town? I don't know what it is about the universe that wants to trip you up right before vacation, but I had someone tell me that once. They're like, every time we go on vacation, we get all this business and then we get hyper focused and then we crush it and then it's awesome. And I'm like, well, you should go on more vacations. If that's the correlate, it's like there was the world sending you a message. And I think I missed a few of those messages early on when I thought everything hinged on me. And so part of my life journey was recognizing that I'm really not as good as I think I am. Maybe I'm inspiring, maybe I'm motivated, maybe I'm good at projecting potential for people, but they're probably better at a lot of things that I think I'm good at. And if I let them do their job and I start to leverage myself, I can buy back freedom. But the cornerstone of that is having enough business to pay for it. You have to fund that freedom. But once you do, you realize the correlation way pays for itself over time. Today, I have a team of, we have 13 people, 14 maybe. And I have 2 partners that own it with me because over time, going all the way back to my second office, I quit running the day-to-day. I quit showing houses. I quit, list. I'd occasionally go get a listing because it's fun. And if it was a past client or a friend, I just love being a part of it. But then I'd hand it to my marketing team, and I'd hand it to my field supervisor to do all the brochures, signs, all the lock stuff. And then I would wait for offers, and it would take me, maybe an hour or 2 to sell a house when you add up all the time I was really engaged in the transaction. Then I realized that cost me probably $5,000 if you net out the support staff and another agent to run around and another, but the $5,000 I made was in 2 hours, not 10,000 in 30 hours. So one of the things I would challenge you when you look at some aspects of the wheel is what is the ROI on that behavior and that activity? And can you connect the dots to your highest per hour return? And the ego part of the conversation was I quit making flyers and I quit running errands to deliver stuff because that's $12, $13 an hour, not $300 an hour or 500 or whatever, your net cost. The average sales price on Marco and vicinity and Naples. What is the average sales price? Something stupid. Oh, I feel better. I'm average in my house. I thought I was broke. Anyway, I have a good realtor who got me a pretty good deal at the right time. So 1.5, I mean, you don't have to sell a lot of houses, but you do have to consistently sell houses still, right? So each house you get 3 or 2.5% here.
Either.
Gary's, by the way, did y'all see that Inman News article? Gary Keller is awesome, but because we're number one and we're the biggest and the baddest, coolest company, everybody has a target. We're the target of everything. There's a lawsuit right now saying there's collusion around commissions and buyer agent. Anyway, we'll see how it shakes out. All that to say, at 3%, you make 40, 50 grand a sale sometimes. Is my math right? I mean, granted, there's 20 that don't work, but the one that does pays good. So anyway, the long story short of all of that is there's an algorithm for everything. There's a formula, there's a strategy, and if you properly kind of get your head around how to leverage and stay in your strength zone and your highest dollar productive, it's amazing what can happen. And you stop doing things that are 15 an hour and you start doing only things that are 300 an hour. And that's what I committed to. And for me, who knows Kiyosaki, Robert Kiyosaki? Have you ever heard of him? Cool. Huh?
It's Stanford.
Correct, sir. Chaz, you get gold stars, man. I should have brought presents and prizes, but your presence is my prize. So thank you. So there's another book he wrote too called The Cash Flow Quadrant. It's a good book. And all it says is that there's 4 ways people build wealth or make money. Actually, it's this way. It's B and then I. Sorry, I haven't done this in a minute. I'm out of practice, but I'm better at fishing these days. So E is employee. So if you show up, you get a paycheck. The problem with this is you're only as good as your employer's best day and their ability or desire to pay you. That's the bottom line. S is self-employed. This is where most real estate agents live. The cool thing here is you dictate your income based on the average sales price, number of clients, number of closings, times the percentage commission, minus the cost of working a brokerage. But where life gets really good and where Gary Keller crushed it is moving from S to B. That's what I've done with my team. I started to tell you, I have 13 people in my team. Over the years, I quit, like I said, back in 03 or 4. I would consult, here's how I would share it. Like somebody go, aren't you going to help me? And the answer is, man, I'd really love to. But if I did, I would be half measures of everything and you wouldn't get the service you deserve. Is that fair? Let me show you a path to the best experience and the highest return you could possibly have. Is that fair? I've never had anyone say, no, that's a stupid idea. So you ask leading questions. That's the secret to winning when it comes to scripting and consulting. And then I will follow it. It's like going to a doctor's office. When you walk in, someone takes your information, someone checks you in, someone makes sure that your insurance is up to date and in the system properly so you don't get hit with out-of-pocket fees. Someone takes you back and takes blood and does your analytics. And then you have a general doctor come in and go through the checklist of everything else. And then if something looks uncertain or not inside the box of absolute normal, then you call a specialist in. I live in the realm of being a specialist so that I can serve more people and I'm more effective. If you ask me to draw blood, good. You wouldn't want your doctor to draw your blood. You want the person that does it 100 times a day. That's all they do is find the right vein, pop that out, and you're done. The doctor would probably stick it in your neck. Who knows? Being funny pays dividends, by the way, even when it's not funny, because you just kind of alleviate some of the tension with your clients. All that to say, I figured out early on, I didn't want to draw blood and I didn't want to check insurance. I don't. So I earned the right by creating a business. What is the greatest book on how to build a real estate business I'm convinced of on the planet? Yes, the red book, the MREA book. It's How to Build $1 Million a Year Business. I took that book. So I was really lucky in 03 to be in a mastermind with Gary Keller himself for a solid year. I flew out to Austin 3 times and there were 25 people in the room. And I was in so I would have been like 5th or 6th year, probably making about $500-600 at that point. Every year I do a little bit better, 50 to 70% better was kind of my typical goal. Early on, it was double. And then after a while, I'm like, double every year. But I felt pretty good about myself. And so I got invited to his top 100 mastermind and there he did 4 of them because he broke them into groups of 25 or 26 or 7. And I remember coming in thinking, I can't wait to add value. I can't wait to be in this conversation. I can't believe I get to be in this room. And I came in thinking that I kind of had some things figured out. And in about, I don't know, 30 minutes of the first visit, I realized I really didn't have a lot figured out. I was just working harder. I was just swinging harder. I was doing some things right. There were people that were selling 1,000 houses a year. And my goal was like 110 or something that year, 1,000. And I have to confess, like my stomach nodded when they talked about their volume because I immediately correlated remember, this is before I fully figured out staying in my lane and delegating. And I'm like, all of a sudden I felt 1,000 amounts of weighted pressure and being responsible for all these people. And I literally could feel myself like shallow breathing. And then Gary asked a really good question. He says, how many weeks a year do you spend in self-development? And I thought, days or weeks? What are we talking? And as he went around the room, the average was like 6-7 weeks. And I'm thinking, man, this 3-day thing right here is stressing me to the max. I got things at home, the fire's burning. That's why I'm like, how long can you stay? I know you're person. You're like, I got to fix, solve, or cure something. 3.5 hours is gone. Think about 3 straight days. But I was with Gary, so one of the brightest people you'll ever enjoy. And he's really pointed. When you say something that doesn't make sense, he'll call you out. Like, it's like, yeah, that's stupid, but keep going, whatever you think. And you're going. But he did it lovingly, of course. The point in all of this is they had a better plan and they executed at a higher level. They're more purposeful in their business. They were no longer down here. And I was somewhere in the middle. I had a few helpers kind of scrambling for me, but I didn't really operate like a business. Anybody want to, by definition out of the Red Book, what's a business? How do you define it? When you have a business, how do you know what a business is? It's a live action question. You're onto it. Anthony's on it. Sustainability. So Gary would tell you, if you leave for 6 months and come back, it's doing as well or better, and you did nothing while you were gone. That's real financial freedom. It's when you don't have to push buttons, pull levers, and go dance, in front of people and convince them you're cool enough to hire. Because other people do that for you, and you've trained and consulted them to do it as well or better than you would do it. And so the whole idea behind the cash flow quadrant is, how can you land over here more often and push resources to passive sources? But because of Gary's early teachings and sitting in a room, by the way, out of the 26 or 7, I was probably the least productive person there, making 600. And so I was like, and then I just became a human sponge. I'm like, what are you doing that I'm not? And they're like, well, we don't carry 2 beepers and 2 cell phones. I'm like, oh, that's just so that, yeah, okay. Yeah, we have people to intercept that. We have people that are more capable of doing it right now, not keep carrying it around for an hour, hoping you can break free to go fix it. Does that make sense? Anybody feel that pressure in their minds? I know this guy, you're killing me. And I love it. So I created a business. So over time, I brought on 2 people who have core genius and expertise that I don't have. When I sold my business, half of it, to one fellow, that was in 2013. I was coming out of the REO craze. I sold 2 years in a row, sold over 500 houses that were all foreclosures, just because I had Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo. Those were 4 accounts. And we were killing it. The only problem was our average sales price went from 300 to 90. We were selling burnouts, crack houses. We were in neighborhoods where you had to keep low, serpentine to the door and back. Announce you're coming in when it's vacant, because people are in there waiting to ambush you. It was never boring, but it was easy money, to be honest, because it was just, everybody wants to buy foreclosures. But when we were coming out of that, I realized, man, this gravy train's going away. I need to partner with someone who's heavily vested in farming, neighborhoods, who's the city mayor of their little area that I can leverage their retail with my wholesale REO. So I found Mark. Fast forward 3 years beyond that, I'm like, man, we need new construction in our arsenal. We're so short, we're short inventory. So we brought in Pam Ahern, a 20-year friend who was just at a point where she just wanted to leverage, and she had a small team. We had a bigger team, merged our teams. That's how we got to 13. I think our goal this year is something like 350 units, and I think like 3 mil in GCI. And so here's what's funny about all of that. I make way less than I did when I ran the team by myself, but I do way less. So when I say way less, I mean, like I teach a class once a month, like a high five at the holiday party. They occasionally call me to consult. Once a quarter, I meet and we go through the numbers and the goals to see where we are. And I try not to laugh with embarrassment. I'm not really contributing, but I love what they're doing. But they don't resent me because I help create a foundation for it. I'm there when they need me. I do what I do and they do what they do, and they get paid for the role inside of our team that they perform. If the other two partners decided not to be in a role, they can step out just like me. But someone has to do that job. And the cool thing is we created an economic model where there's a slot for that person, you know, lead listing specialist, lead buyer specialist, coach, operations manager. Those are all critical roles in a business. All right, I'm going to move on because we got a lot. I want to get busy with you guys working on your plan. But you see where I'm going with all this? So the problem with moving from here to here is that annually, it's hard to have an annual goal to take to cycle through all this. And by the way, I is just investments. That's where the spinoff of capital can go to work for you. And so when you have extra money, it's easy to commit to a forced saving strategy and put 100 grand or 200 grand a year into different investment vehicles and syndications. Every year I buy into 3 to 4 apartment syndications. I could go find apartments and maybe go navigate and negotiate to buy them. But you know, these are $15, $20 million deals. And it's not my core genius, but I know 3 or 4 people that that's all they do. They wake up every day and go, I need another big asset for my portfolio. They give you a guaranteed rate of return that's usually 7 to 10%. You get the first money of profit, and then you get 70% of the net profit relative to your percentage owned when it sells in 5 to 10 years. Did all that make sense? It's a good way to offset the stock market and other things that are far more volatile, different than rental income from apartments. These are B apartments, typically not super high grade high. They're B minuses that they make better, and they elevate them to get A minus or B plus rent by bringing either amenities or, you know, fresh paint and appliances and hardwoods and granite and all the stuff that makes people feel like 500 more a month is worth it. But that's what they do. But the point is, this is another area, all of this on this side of the equation, this is freedom. This is a job. And so you just kind of decide, do I want a job or do I want freedom? But a 1-year goal probably won't crush it at the level that it will in 5 years if you just chop wood consistently and stop having 1-year redos. Just helpful, just conceptually. So I'm just trying, my goal is just to plant seeds, and then you decide whether you want to fertilize it, water it, and make it into something. You know, the fact that I wake up most days and pinch myself that I get to be me. Like I almost have this imposter syndrome thing going. Anybody heard that term before? Where you're like, how did I get here? And who am I? How did I get here? And but when I look back at it, I was like, the only reason I get to do it is because I did things most people don't do. And I was creative about it. And I was also resourceful, and I applied, you know, and by the way, every time I crush it over here, it's more of a who than a what. I've also built a sphere of influence of quality people who have big hearts, big minds, and are motivated and work harder than me. And so I'm back to the betting on the jockey component. I got a guy that took my job. He didn't take my job. I happily did this. I was OP again at 5 offices. It was like, and I took my job. Like I'm not, some OPs kind of come and go. You see them an hour or two and they, you know, go sell houses. I was a full-time, straight up all in OP. All I want to do is coach, train, consult, and grow people, coach, train, consult my leadership team, and inspire them to go lead generate and change lives. And that was my mission. And I lived it like, and I still live it, but I just don't have to check all the compliance boxes that goes with owning a franchise. But I figured out that for roughly 12% of my total income from all of my offices, I could give away 90% of my work and stress. You feel that? I saw you breathe out. That can, a microcosm of that can happen anywhere. You just have to build a business that's big enough to fund someone else's life and dream who's as or more talented than you, who likes being in business with you. I mean, that's way oversimplified, but again, 5-year trajectory, not today, not tomorrow, not next week. 5 years from now, what might your life look like? Now, I've spent a lot of time talking about business, and let's just talk a little bit about the fact that you know, I guess I can share it. Yeah, 2006, I went through a divorce. And it was just because I was so hell-bent on trying to win in what I thought were the big boxes that I think I let a few things go. And it's back to that slowly and then suddenly. And I would check in and go, hey, everything cool? I know I just need one more appointment. I'll be right back to dinner. I just need to make one quick call, and I lived that for a long time. And I don't know that was directly correlated to the demise of the relationship. I think we both just grew in the way we grew. And she woke up one day not wanting to be married, not wanting to work on a marriage. As a kid who had 4 dads and 3 moms and went to 10 schools in 12 years and military school, it's a sad story. It's a good story. But my only freaking commitment in the universe was to figure out how to be a good dad and be a good role model and not abandon their mother. Like, I will die on the sword. And then one day she woke up and just went, you know what? I just don't want to be married. By the way, she's still not married. That was 15 years ago. She's doing her thing, and glad she figured her thing out. Made life a little difficult for me and tucking my kids in every day at 8 and 10. But the point is, and that was kind of my thing. The point is today, I wish I'd been a little better about focusing on things that I took for granted, that I thought I had margin that I could go back to later and fix or make better. Or, hey, just hold this rock. I'll be right back. There's actually, Andy Stanley wrote a book. He's a minister for North Point Buckhead Church in Atlanta. I love the way he communicates business and religious principles. The crossover is awesome. But he wrote a book, and it was about, you give your people in your world rocks, and you go, just hold this. I'll be right back. I'm going to go do what I have to do. But if one day you come back, they can't hold the rock and their arms have fallen off. And I'm like, I think I might have kind of played that out a little bit. I had little kids, and and she would do everything's great. And I was pretending for a season. All that to say, this is designed strategically so that you just pay more attention to little things that could become big things. There's another concept in the one thing, Gary Keller's he's got 5 or 6 top sellers. And the one thing, he talks a lot about counterbalance. Anybody read the one thing? The good parts? I appreciate honesty. It's okay. I only read so that here's what I figured out about life. If you're gonna work your way over here, you gotta have something to give. You gotta have context and content. Some of it's life and just road scars from being drugged behind the car. But other times you could just kind of shortcut that with just conceptual knowledge that might inspire someone to think differently, and you not telling them, they could kind of self-discover it through questions. But I like to read just so that I have more capacity to help people. I treated my clients like my family. I feel like more therapist than realtor most days. Anybody feel that way? Like, that's a big part of the emotional roller coaster, especially in today's market where it's hard to win as a buyer, really hard. They're asking 1.5 and it's going to go for 1.8. You're like, I don't know how you justify it. They didn't pick that number because they thought it was, high number. They picked that number because they thought it was worth it. The market says it's really worth this. So there's some emotional conversations that have to happen. But the book I was referring to is the one thing in counterbalance. And what Gary says is there's no such thing as balance. So to wake up every day and hit every circle perfectly balanced is an improbable and almost impossible goal. But counterbalance says you come back to those things before they're in a detrimented state. Health being a real easy one. There are people I know in our industry that just don't live healthy lives because they're constantly on the road. They're constantly stressed. They don't eat well. They're going through drive-thrus. And you'll pay a price for it eventually. You just don't know until you pay the price. So the context for today is that this is a holistic view of where you want to be in 5 years, not just financial. What I do know is that if you crush this, the rest is a lot easier because you can buy back margin and stress. You don't have to be a stress. Let somebody else carry some of that stress. And then when I say margin, I mean you buy back time so that you can double down on some other categories like travel, leisure, health, adventure, hobbies. Spiritual is important. Romance, it's funny. I do a 30-minute podcast every week with my partner, my new partner, Brett, he's the OP now of all my offices. And we call them Mojo Mondays. We shoot it during the week because we know that we had to wake up at 6 a.m. on Monday. We might miss a few because things get in the way. So we'll just pick times during the week and shoot them, and then we play them or air them Monday morning. But yesterday was about romance. It was a funny conversation between 2 guys talking about how to be more romantic. But that's the kind of fun we have. If you're not bringing the authentic you, you're probably missing something. If you're not okay being, there's no open wound that I won't share because I feel like that's my opportunity to get real, because there's probably something that without it, someone in the world wouldn't connect with it. You know what I'm saying? It's like if you didn't have a detriment or issue or challenge, you know, people tend to judge their insides by your outsides, and everything looks perfect. Like, you guys do look beautiful today. Like, there can't be a problem in your world. I mean, what could possibly be wrong? You're you. But until they see it, they don't relate. And I think relatability is a pretty important component. So a few more key points. I've got only 30 more pages to go before we start the process. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Let me see if I kind of, like I said, I'm kind of organic by nature, and I like the flow, cash flow quadrant. And people also quit. People also quit on their big goals often. See that this is, and really it's probably more like this. But anybody ever see the hockey stick analogy, like for an investment and return? It's kind of slowly, then suddenly. And in real estate, people start out and then they get, you know, maybe it's 6 month mark, maybe the 9 month, and they somewhere between here and there, they either run out of money or motivation because things don't come together fast enough. And so the goal behind the 5-year plan is it gives you a longer runway to really experience some real, you know, potential growth and experience. Does this make sense? Mm-hmm. And so we also micro quit constantly, where we don't do the things we know we need to do or should do in a given day. Like, I'm going to make 20 legitimate contacts today, and somewhere around 10 or 12, your stomach growls and you go get coffee, and then someone asks you about a listing, and then next thing you know, you make 12. And so there's something to be said for follow through, and there's also something to be said for living by a daily strategy. I had this said to me by a friend, Gene Rivers. If you ever see him, he's one of the icons of Keller Williams. He's out of Tallahassee. But he said he was in a group of my top people. I flew him up to be the, you know, my pro speaker. And he said, how many of you have really big goals? And everyone, you know, they're all my ALC. These are my top guys out of 5 offices. We're at, I don't know, we had 35, 40 people in the room. And he said, how many of you are absolutely certain you're going to hit them? And about 75% went down. And the next word is pawned, because it was kind of, he said, if you lowered your hand, you're an idiot. I'm like, you gotta reframe that, you know? And he's like, not because you're not gonna hit your goal, but because Keller Williams has the algorithm, they have the secret sauce, they have we have the blueprint. Just follow the blueprint. You guys are Ignite. Anybody take Ignite? You're brand new, so you probably haven't. What is the lead generation strategy in Ignite? What do you have to do? Oh yeah, it's daily 10-4. That's all right. I'm impressed. You'd be surprised. This is a small room, so there's a lot of pressure to know answers. Usually I have 30, 40 people to pick on. That sounded egocentric, but it just works out that way when people know me. So out of those, do you remember what they are? Listen. For a plate of shrimp at Snooks.
What is it, 10 calls, 10? I know.
So thank you for illustrating my point precisely. If there's a formula that always works, why wouldn't you exercise the formula? And it works in Ignite because it's a fast start. So if you're ever in a slump, the daily 10-4 is a quick way to get out of it. You connect with 10 new people.
Right.
You put 10 people in those people in your database. These aren't your best friends, your cousins, and people that have already used you that aren't going to use you again for 10 years. These are potential prospects. You put them in your database. You send 10 thank you notes, handwritten notes, and then preview 10 houses so that you've got some context to your market area for expertise and something to maybe call or talk about. So that's the day 10-4. It's hard to do. It's hard to go make 10 new friends. I was at the Marriott. Fred helped me out. So, and we were bowling. The people next to me, I tried, man. I was trying to get you hooked up. Someone has to supplant him as my go-to once soon. I'm gonna have to figure it out. But these people next to me were bowling, and lo and behold, we start talking. And next thing you know, they're like, "Where do you live? What do you do? We're visiting. We rent. We come down 4 times a year." I'm like, 4 times a year? Where do you stay? Like, we're in the big suite at the Marriott. And I'm thinking, I think that's like $2,000 a night. Anybody know? I think it is. I'm going off season, like right now. So I'm doing the math. I'm like, yeah, you spend more than I do on my house when you add it all up. And they were like, well, should we own? And I'm like, that's for you to decide. But I know what people help you work through the process of confirming whether that's a great idea, whether the time is right for you. And in the end, they kind of snuck out, and I failed. But I was but the point is that would be one of my 10. Like, consciously being aware to spark the question. Like I could have easily gone, you know what, we're bowling. I need another vodka tonic, you know, or I could think like a lead generator and a relationship builder everywhere I go. But the daily 10-4. So if you're ever slacking, there's formulas baked into our system that are fail proof. Can you imagine 10 thank you notes a day, how much reciprocity you would get and how much mind awareness when they walk around? You know what the law of reciprocity does, right? Law of country. When you're kind and supportive of someone, they have to reciprocate. You can't, as human. Now there's some mean, ugly people with cold hearts. You just don't want them anyway, so who cares? But 9 out of 10, do you ever get a thank you note? Anybody get a thank you note? What happens to that note?
Stays with you.
I have a hard time throwing it away,
Yeah.
especially if it's, I mean, you know, every now and then you get one, thanks, exclamation, and it was, you know, some rubber stamp thing. But if it says anything that was like, you were this, or you did that, or thank you changed this, or you helped my family, I'm just like, and it sits on my desk. I actually have a file full of my favorite thank you notes for 20 years plus. Every now and then one's so personal and so deep that I go, I literally tear up and I'm like, one day I'm going to be in a crisis and I may think really awful thoughts. I'm going to pull this file out and remind myself I'm a good guy. The cool thing is I've never had to. It's like having a parachute. When you have one, you don't check it. Like you just know, hey, the plane stops running. But there's a lot of goodwill. You send 10 thank you notes. I'm telling you, game on. 5 a day, 3 a day. You know why? Because we don't get very many. This whole text thing's great, but you don't miss a lot of text, but you don't pay much attention and then they're gone. There's no shelf life in the experience. There's no shelf life. You didn't really give someone a legitimate boost for very long. It's like a little whisper and not a massive tailwind for a moment. So happiness to me, by the way, we could talk about a few other things, and it's just being purposeful and feeling progress. It's not perfection. And so this isn't about you being perfect. It's about you tracking in the things that you think are most important and being okay if they turn out not to be the most important. And I'll share with you in a minute how that deviation might look in your plan. You're going to walk out of here. If you follow the process, you'll walk out of here with a poster full of ideas and thoughts. And my best advice is to post it somewhere where you can't not see it. I used to early on, we would do it on paper and you just write your goals. The problem with paper is it ends up in a stack somewhere with other paper and you lose it or never see it again. It's pretty hard to lose this if it's stuck on the back of your closet door or somewhere, even in your office. I walk by offices all the time. They're future self stuff. And I'll lean and go, how's it going? They're like, man, I'm killing it. Thanks for the reminder, going back to the map. And man, it's a really cool visual representation of where you want to be. Big picture. You guys are familiar with the Reticular Activator? Do you know what that is? Ever heard it? Full of information. Woo! After a while, by the way, I talked to my own family. They're like, stop talking about this stuff. But it's in there. I know it. So the Reticular Activator is nothing more than the part of your brain. Your brain, you know, is just really a highly technical riddle solver. Its job 1 is to not let you die. Job 2 is to help you find opportunities and do cool things. At least that's my guess. And so the Reticular Activator is the part of your brain, when you drop an idea or a thought, it goes to work trying to solve the riddle. That's why affirmations are so important. I know they're a little dorky sometimes. You're like, I'm great, I am great. That's not the kind of affirmation I necessarily mean, but just visualizing good things in your life, good things for the people you love, and experiences. It's amazing how your body will gravitate towards solving whatever riddle you give it. If you watch the news and it's murders and there's all kinds of crazy things in the world, it's trying to figure that out too. And that's just it consumes energy for nothing because you can't control it. A good example of the Reticular Activator is when you decide you want a new moped and it happens to be pistachio. You planted that seed. Thank you. All I do is say pistachio mopeds. True story. It has the coolest, I don't know what color, indigo blue, light blue. It's a killer light blue. It's a beautiful. And I said, man, that is an awesome, sweet Italian slick ride. And he's like, man, a year later they came out with pistachio. If I had it to do over, I think that's kind of how you said it. So
The color I really want.
I like pistachio. I'm going in. But that's the power of the Reticular Activator. When you decide you like, want, or intrigued by something, your brain will go, it's like sonar. If you're looking for clients, it will capable, awesome people, or if your thought is liars are liars and they're all full of, then that's what I'm telling you. Your brain now has to process it, and then they're going to probably see that in people, and that's what you're going to have to deal with versus something different. And so I know it's a little airy fairy, but we're all energy too. We're energy. We attract like kind. People that aren't positive, upbeat, and like are just come from contribution don't usually stay in my life very long. And maybe they're uncomfortable, or maybe I send nonverbal cues because I would never tell someone, sorry, you're just not up to the standard. Because I don't consciously do that. Every now and then there's somebody in my world, I'm like, I probably should not keep trying because I'm watering the weeds. Is that, I'm not pointing at you, I'm pointing at you. Like watering the weeds, like what good is that? They're never going to grow in anything. The relationship's never going to evolve if they're self-absorbed and motivated. But the beautiful part of having this on a poster is hopefully every day when you look at it, something in your brain puts out the word to the universe that you want it. And it helps you subconsciously solve the riddle, and it'll bring you opportunities. And the question I always have is, well, did you invite it and it came, or were you just hyper aware and it became obvious? You process that out? And my answer is always the same. Who cares?
Yeah.
It's still good. It's right there. You go, I want a really talented right-hand person who's really good with detail and marketing and could answer phones with charisma and encourage and invite, great people into our team. I'm telling you, you're going to all of a sudden I've hired people that were wait staff because they just had good energy. You're like, you got the gift. Are you aware you have a gift? Like you're magnetic. And they'll go, and sometimes 9 out of 10's the right, but 1 out of 10, they're like, really? All right. I'm like, if you ever want to sit down and talk about how to make some real money in real estate, I'm happy to have the conversation. And so a question unasked is a question unanswered. It's another secret to success. If you do not open the door, people will not walk in. They're not going to knock because that's just not human nature. Either uncomfortable or unaware or fill in the blank. And so reticular activator is huge. There's another concept in another book, Jack Canfield, is called the inverse paranoid theory. You've better heard of Murphy's Law. Let's start with that one. What is Murphy's Law?
Can go wrong, will go wrong.
Yeah, I call BS. I mean, things go wrong, but they just go wrong. Can you frame it in a positive way and get past it quicker? Sure. If you dwell on it, does it suck more? Yes. But the opposite of that is called the inverse paranoid theory, where you just wake up and decide, this is part of my affirmation. Like, and I have 2 affirmations already. Like, the universe wants to favor me because I want to give back in multiples and make it bigger. And because I think I get more than I take, I don't feel ashamed of expecting or wanting. That's just my own psychology. So I'm not telling you to think that way, but that's just how I wake up. I'm like, I'm going to give it back. So why wouldn't it give it to me? Like, and the universe favors me. So the inverse paranoid theory is the opposite of Murphy's Law, and that the world wants you to have exactly what you want. The challenge is sometimes it's not great because there's a lesson or an opportunity. So that's how I get over the days when they don't come and everything falls apart. I go, I'm supposed to be grounded in a different reality. I'm supposed to learn so that I'm a better teacher, or maybe execute differently next time because of that lame experience. I shouldn't have said that. I was joking. I have to watch my sarcasm occasionally. I can tell 5 good stories right now that would make you laugh out loud. Like, you said that? I'm like, I was kidding, but it just backfired. But I learn from my mistakes more often than not. The secret to all this, by the way, is to train your inside voice to believe in the potential that it has. So this is kind of important. There's 2 voices, right? There's the outside voice that tells the universe, hey, I can do this. And you may not say it, but that's what you would hope to project. But then there's that inside voice that says, you don't deserve that. You're not good enough. You're an imposter. Remember the imposter syndrome I talked about? That's a real situational. There are a lot of people who grow up in poverty or situations where, they just don't believe they deserve, or that their historical path should lead them to greatness. And so they kind of self-sabotage a lot, and they find ways and reasons not to elevate their game. And then even if they do get elevated, there's some guilt attached for all the people around them that aren't having that experience. It's a weird reality. Anyway, so the 2 voices, it's really common that you might come up with some, like when I say, remember I said the what if game? Today's about playing the what if. What if every single one of these 12 categories could be a 10? What if? Is it reasonable to hope they're all 10s? Maybe. I don't, mine aren't all 10s right now, not even close. And I have 80% of my time to make them all 10s, and I still don't have all 10s. So I think that's, and it's also your grading system and scale. Your 10 might be my 7. I might be like, I mean, look at you, you're epitome of good health. I probably would rate myself way lower than you because I think of health and I put, that's my paradigm. Does that make sense? So it's cool to like, remember the ends, don't judge your insides by other people's outsides. It's easy metaphorically in the physical world, but also that you don't have a problem or stress or your kids are beautiful and great because for God's sakes, Facebook said so, right? And you're like, I have to be careful these days, by the way, posting pictures of me with fish, because now everyone thinks all I do is fish. Close, but not exactly. I mean, I'm 2 days a week. There's still 4 or 5 days where I do work and I do other things, take out the trash and whatever my wife says I should do. Anyway, the point is your inside outside story. The cool thing about crafting something 5 years out is you can kind of let yourself off the hook. Like it doesn't have to be today. Just go, I want to have fill in the blank, $200,000 a year in passive income so I can choose to or not to work. And because I get to, not because I have to. Psychologically, when you get to go to work, the dynamic of work is completely different from have to. At least it is for me. And so 5 years from now, that's certainly a conceivable thought that I think anyone in this room that's a professional real estate agent should or could have if that's what you want. There's no reason you couldn't own however many rental properties and you could subsidize with investments. You could, and then build a team and leverage 2 or 3 buyers agents that you groom and grow. You have profit share. Y'all know profit share? Do you get profit share? Anybody get anything from it yet? No. You had to think about it. The answer is no. Of course not. Well, of course not, because you have to have someone you've encouraged. I'm counting on you, man. You got to help me. I'm being funny. I made $141,000 in profit share last year, just from KW. And so here's what people are like. So here's the judgment thing. Oh, but you're with Hale. Oh, but you built an entire empire in Atlanta. Oh, but you were there first and early. The freaking industry turns over 30% a year. Every year, a third of the agents are new. So by definition, it's not a static opportunity that's one and done. Okay, every 3 years, it's basically a whole new season of opportunity, right? A third, a third, a third. You get that? That math is easy. I have 25 people in my first level downline, maybe 26. Maybe. 3 is awesome. But if you did 3 a year for 10 years, you'll have more in your first level than I do. Does that make sense? So the cool thing about Keller's profit share is that levels 2, 3, 4, and 5 usually happen organically. They'll either do it or not do it. You know the 80-20 rule, right? 20% or 80%. So 2 out of 10, you have to have at least 10. You hope for 2 or at least 5 with 1, just playing odds. But over time, it's like small steps in the right direction lead to a big journey. And so, by the way, 99% of my recruiting goes to other people. So, because in my market area, the people that I typically talk to know somebody. We're saturated. Keller Williams has 15,000 agents just in our state. Like everybody knows a Keller Williams agent. By the time you get to the operating partner or me in leadership, my first question is, well, who do you talk to about our company? And it's always somebody. For the sake of integrity, I would never let them put me in their profit. Like you got to put them down because I've screwed that up once and worked this out. I'm taking someone from someone, and so they'll never send them to me to help secure that person. And I have bigger goals as an investor. It doesn't hurt me to do it that way either. But I'm telling you, the 25 I have are really inner circle people who were not in real estate, knew nobody, were orphans, basically. And most of them worked on my team at some point for a year or a few. And then when they went out on their own, I still get profit share. So there's like this, do I love it when someone awesome leaves my team to start their own team? Part of me is like, oh, I really want you here because not just financial, we love you in the family. But the cool thing is I help groom and grow them into somebody that I would want them to be because that's who I would want to be. And then our company's cool enough to pay you for it forever. As long as they produce, you get a percentage of their profitability and profit share. And it's real money. It's real money. So just don't disqualify it, but somewhere in your wealth building strategy, don't forget to have a line item for it somewhere in there. Like If it's to be, why not be? Somebody's gonna, and if you've got 3 people, you've got the gift. Like, people must trust you and like you, and you're new, and 3's good. 3's a good start. So then you got to invest in them to help make sure that they live. Remember the hockey stick right here? You just don't want to hit here and then, put a happy, unhappy face and go back to their job or whatever they were doing before. You got to help them get to this place where all of a sudden it's an invigorating, every day is an day of opportunity, not another Groundhog Day of distress and uncertainty. They need, some cash in the bank, a few deals going, some clients. It's hard to quit when you have momentum. The problem is our business kind of cycles. And if you don't have enough inflow, it can feel disheartening pretty quick. A couple of months of nothing, and you're like crickets, and you're like, I got bills, man. I got to go back to whatever. But when you have them in your profit tree, you take a vested stake. Gary Keller was a genius in building this system. Genius. We talked about what worth per hour, structure equals freedom, inverse paranoid. I did a pretty good job, actually. Covered most of it. Am I talking too fast? Because I'm excited by you guys getting to the good stuff, so I go fast. All right, so here's what I want you to do now. Everybody have the handouts. If I say something way too fast and makes no sense, stop me. I should have said that early on. I haven't taught in a little while, so this is kind of like, jumping back in the first time, after a while. So real quick, just GPS is inside of my book. I talk a little bit about GPS, the concept of global positioning and your car. If your car, you can put in a destination, but if the satellite system doesn't know where you are, what happens?
Nothing.
Nothing. It can't help you if it doesn't know where you are. So the first data point that's most important is getting real clear where you are. And then you can decide where you want that second dot to go, or the red dot or the destination dot. So real quick, go around the horn on this, pull out your pen, everyone got a pen, and just put like a dot, like just somewhere on the line, big enough that you can see it. And it's closest to the center would be the weakest. So it's 1.
Each one of these?
Yeah, each one. And by the way, so I can share this. Anybody heard of the class career visioning? It's the best class Keller Williams offers. And it's about how to hire the right people for the right jobs. And it takes about 10 or 12 hours. Plus there's the Keller personality assessment. You guys know what that is? So when I hire somebody, I invest a ton of time. I would rather overinvest on the front end to make sure I don't make a mistake, because the cost of a bad hire is really distracting and expensive. It really bad. So it's an insurance policy. So built into that process is this concept of getting their future self. Because if you're aligned with where they want to be in 5 years, what are the odds they're still with you in 5 years? Pretty good. The only reason people leave is they didn't have the skills and capacity, or you misread their energy. It's just a misfit, or their ultimate trajectory didn't align with the opportunity. I have people that have been with me 15 years, and it's not because I'm really good at incentive trips and reviews every year. I'm really not good at that detail, but they're with me because I understand where they are holistically, and I always lean in and try to help them achieve their collective goals. And then they happen to show up and do good work at work. Does that make sense? So that's where this came from. Kind of important to know, just trivia, I suppose. So 1 to 10, all of these. Real quick, put a dot. Stream of consciousness. Don't invest a lot of time. Are you done? Damn, A-type. I like it. So he took it to heart. Stream of consciousness. 1 to 10. How do I feel today? Oh, the reason I brought up the interview thing is every now and then someone's sensitive about a particular topic, or it's not important. If I'm interviewing you for a job and you're like, I don't think spiritual is an appropriate conversation, awesome. Let's not talk about it. It's only important if it's important to you. So if a category is not important, don't use it. Got it? You don't understand what to do.
I know, I'm gonna be able to see it. Yeah, this is not gonna help anyone.
Yeah, you want to do black one?
Yeah, that's.
See. Cool, man.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank him. You brought all the tools. So 1 to 10, just put a circle and then connect it out. See how round you are. See how connected you are collectively. What does it look like? And some of, there's occasions where it looks more like a starfish, and some of them look like a de-inflated flat spot wheel. Some of them are awesome. This isn't about judgment. It's just about your first coordinate. The first coordinate, although important, is the least important part of today's experience. Just gives you a chance to kind of connect where you are today holistically. It's 2 o'clock, 3, 4, 2. We're doing good. Oh, about to turn it up. You good? Awesome. Any questions? Connected the dots to see how it looks. Okay. So here's what I want you to do next. Next page should be your, so this is kind of a neat concept. And I figured this out later on. This didn't happen early on in my book. It was like literally writing the book. I remember thinking, is the goal important or is it the intention for that goal? Anyone want to speculate the difference?
Doesn't matter. Like you were saying earlier, it's like why?
It can be. So I think so. I'm glad you said big why. Anybody hear the term big why? Like, what's your why, your purpose? And often people are like, my kids or my wife or my family or whatever it is. But I'm convicted in the belief that some people actually come to me and go, I don't really have a big why. I don't want to solve hunger. I mean, I'd like, if I could, well water to South Africa would be great. There's lots of people who just wake up and go, this is my mission to save underprivileged kids or cancer victims, kind of a make-a-wish thing. I've got a friend who does that. I think it's beautiful. I have another guy who's all about fatherless boys who are teens, and he's got a nonprofit called Building Your Legacy, where he wants to fill a void where they don't have dads, just to go, hey, you can. There's a rite of passage, and we're going to help you cross it. And I'm like, that's awesome. Like, I want to play in that sandbox, but it's not the only, that's his thing. But if you don't have it, I've also believed that if you just add up the important things on your wheel and you stack them, that's an amazing big why. If you're 7 and 8 in every category that's important to you, or even a 9, you killed it. Like, that's a life well lived. That's a legacy life. That's leading by example, because most people don't. Fair enough? And so the concept of the intention is that, why is it important? You nailed it. What's your name? Powder? Say it slower. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Spell it.
It's like Bart. Like, there we go.
Bartos?
Oh, Bartos.
Bartos. Cool. Where are you from? I love it. Bartos. So I would say, like, a goal for health might be, 100 push-ups, sit-ups, and, squats every day. That's a goal that usually leads to an outcome. But the intention might be, I want to wake up feeling energized and connected to my core physical being. I want to be able to run the race and win physically. Or my intention for health now, as I get older, is I just want to be able to throw a football and run around with my grandkids one day. And it doesn't look like my kids are having it soon. So I got to be careful. I'm going to be broken when they're not even, they're mid-20s and one of them's got a serious girlfriend, and that would be that. So, and I'm not pushing them, but at the same time, I'm like, man, there's stuff that I like to do that I did with my kids that if I don't watch out, I'm not going to feel enabled and capable when the time comes to really show up physically. So that's my intention. As I get old, be free of pain and physically capable of keeping up with grandkids and great grandkids if they happen to bless me. And so that's the intention. The goals can change. When you go 5 years, you'll have some goals you might plot today, but that could evolve. But as long as your intention is clear, and the goal aligns, you win. So I added the intention piece. What used to be just goals, I think intentions are actually more important than goals, because the intention will lead you to the highest pinnacle of best goal for that intention. So quickly, just script a few words about what's your intention for each category. Just quickly. Health, I gave you mine. Why is recreation important? If you're like, it's not, then just scratch it out. Like, this is your story. So what is your big why for each category? Thank you, Bartos. That was perfect. I'll leave this behind. They'll think we had a real low level class, won't they? By the way, I put 2 goals. This is kind of a practice sheet for your 5-year. Like when you look at, after you get your intentions written, I see you already doing goals too. What 1 or 2 things could you do in the next 7, 14, 20, 30 days minimum? Like if you put it in your day planner, you probably move your number right there, 1 or 2 numbers just by doing that. Like on romance, it could be set up a date night this Friday night and then, you know, get a special table in the corner. You know what I mean? Like set the stage for a really good one. So this is kind of a short-term goal, not the 5-year goal. This is an immediate checkbox you could put in your day planner. How we doing?
Pretty good.
So the starter kit's working. Got the juices flowing. Go a few more minutes, and then we'll roll into the next exercise. Don't overthink that. Well, do overthink the intention. The goal, just whatever comes to you, comes to you. We're going to dig in deeper with the 5-year part next. So don't get super hung up. And by the way, you don't have to fill out every blank. Like if one goal nails it, one goal nails it. Like you could put all the workout stuff you'd want to do for health, or you could just put hire a trainer. Right? That usually does it for me. Changes everything. Lose everybody in digital land. I think so. This is a hard thing to do remotely. The boat? Was it on your list?
Second one is.
Nice. It's the Cayman 246.
Don't speak tomorrow, see how far they are. It's in the deal.
They're just loading it up with all the stuff.
They're rigging.
What color?
Sharp, very. It's a dark.
Nice.
I wanted it rich with
Nice.
harder, more wax,
Okay.
harder to maintain.
It'll look good.
Ceramic.
Go for ceramic.
Ceramic, it's getting old.
Yeah, that's smart. I did that with my truck. I don't think I did. I need to do it with my boat. Just had it over at Rosemary too, getting it worked on. I should have just tag teamed the whole thing. Got lost on my teeth driving it over yesterday. The waves were massive.
Take around front.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just because I thought earlier would be okay.
Going around the back.
Should have went the day before. It was like a
Well,
mill pond
I
out
was
there.
fishing.
About
I was fishing the day before. I hooked up a tarpon for a minute,
Get them pompano, or I've been getting pretty good lately.
trying. The guy took us. I had another young guy come out and try to show me some things, and we tried. But yeah, no, did not land him. But it was like they were rolling hardcore outside Camp Caxambas.
I saw them rolling in,
But I saw 50.
I saw them rolling in, Marco Pass at Tiger Tail Beach last Wednesday.
Really?
I was thumping the pompano that day.
Damn.
So that's that.
All right, we need to go back out. I leave though on Wednesday.
Right now, for a while.
Good year, so.
Another guy was yelling at me. That was,
June will be there.
that was interesting. He was on a little skiff. Go offshore. We were probably 100 yards from him.
24-foot center console.
He was like, turn off your motor. I'm like, my power poles are down, dude. There's nothing on. Anyway, it's interesting how people act sometimes. I think this is open water.
Yeah.
If you can't cast and hit me, I'm safe. That's my general theory. Particularly proud of hooking one because he then yelled out, "You're not going to catch him." I was like, "Oh, really?" I'm not competitive at all.
No.
Yeah, my dad had a grouper on for a minute. He broke loose. The hook, it was a big hook too. It was almost straight. Just ripped it. It was crazy. I'm addicted to fishing.
I know.
I try not to be, but I love sharing it with friends and kids. They love it now too.
I know. Oh, whatever. I mean, they're already considering it, to tell me.
All right, everybody get through pretty close. I'm interrupting Chaz with my fishing stories.
Okay.
All right, so I tell you what, just for those that are there, let's take a second here and just, you can jump right back on it. So the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and project out where you want each category to be in 5 years. This is not like traditional goal setting where you list the 10 things. Like it can be one thing, it can be two things, and then let that one thing, like you don't want to, you're going to create a poster that's going to look like, if you go Last page in your stack, this is what you're gonna kind of replicate onto a piece of poster paper. And it's gonna look like, you know, a happy face or whatever you want that represents you. I personally always put alien antenna because it makes me laugh. Because I'm not normal. Normal's overrated. And so that's my version of what you see on that scripted scenario. And then you're gonna write, you know, in health, family, spiritual, you can do them in whatever order you want. Funny part is career, work, and education, I usually do first top left, but I must have redone this or pulled an old one. But you're gonna write this out, just like it's on there. But the secret thing, not the secret, the cool part is, I should say, is that you can do it any way you want. Like you can consolidate. The challenge I think you're gonna find most people do is that there's 12 categories and there's only 4 boxes. So you kind of have to decide. I usually do career, work, and education. Then I do investments and financial. Then I do like health, fitness, and all that. And then I do leisure, travel, and charity. This is a little different. Like I said, I don't know where using my computer here, but it's not way off, and it can be whatever you want it to be. And I would, you know, date today. What is today? The 25th, 22. Yeah, 20. You know, this is my future self. Awesome. So, and so that's kind of how I did it. And just realize whatever you put on here, you're going to probably, you know, if you do it as recommended, this is your scripted scenario for 5 years. You can change things, scratch things, and as long as your intentions are still aligned with your goals, you win. Okay. Some things at the end of 5 years, you're going to be like, it just didn't turn out to be that big a deal. And so what? Today, it seemed like a big deal. If it seems like a big deal, write it down. Decide later. You have 5 years to figure all this out. And then, but it's not like a goal list, like your typical, like a to-do list. These are high-level thoughts about what you want the outcome to be. Then built into your annual goals and your monthly goals are going to be these are the actual actionable items. Does that make sense? And so the idea is that between now and 5 years, what has to happen this month or this year to get you one step closer? Does that make sense? So some things are big long-term. Some of them, by the way, you'll just go, I want to do this, and it'll be like, you can do it in 6 months and it's over. You just check it on your thing and every day you look at it, you feel great about it. And it's something you just want to sustain. So the next step is to take the category goal worksheet and kind of take the starter kit that you did right here and either add them to this if it's something you're not going to do this week. If you're going to do it this week, you don't have to put it on the 5 year. But like, what does it look like to achieve success in health 5 years from now? What does your health look like? And then what needs to happen? And yeah, it's that simple. Family, what does 5 years from now, what happens to make sure that family's in check? Relationships. And by the way, you may only pull 1 or 2 things off each of these that go on the poster, but you're welcome to fill it up or just, you know, does everybody understand what I'm trying to say? Okay. Some people,
These are actions, these are goals.
these are goals and outcomes, not necessarily actions. Because what's going to happen, let me give you a little more feedback, and this might be helpful. So when you go to actually write it on here, I've proven this 4 times now that this will last 5 years. It'll stay on a wall if you leave it. If you take it on and off 100 times a day, it might be problematic. But this sticky stuff is legit. So once you do it, and I should have probably done this inside of a box to show you. This is a big version, so I'm going to leave it on the wall so that as you go processing how you want to script it onto your poster, you can use this as a guide. But there's 4 questions I recommend adding to each goal to add context. One is the goal. So here's a quick example I just made up on the spot. Take my family to Italy. That would fall under leisure, family, and travel. It could be family, right? Because it's including your family. So don't get hung up on where it sits. Just make sure it's on the poster somewhere under that category. The goal, take my family to Italy. And then if you know, go ahead and incorporate what's involved, when, and who. By the way, who is one of those, people often think there's what is the answer to all goals? Like, what do I need to do? What has to happen? who is usually a bigger inspired thought because you're leveraging and maximizing relationships. So for me, what's involved, when and who. So take my family to Italy. The what and who is find an expert who knows Italy. Like, I don't know. I mean, I know the big names of some of the cities, and maybe a travel agent. I think they still exist. And so, and the other is Google. Like, I'm going to Google and do some research. And then you've got to figure out, am I going to go on a cruise, Airbnb, or am I going to go inland? And, is it a wine tour? Italy's a big country. And then the last thing is, what's my budget number? This is kind of what's involved. So as much information you give there, your brain will go to work on it regularly. And the last part is the time frame. And I just said I'd like to go in 2023. It could be the 5th year, it could be the 4th year. One example of how I use this as a tool is that I was working on my second office the first time I did this. That would have been in 2003. And I want to own 7 Keller Williams offices. And at the time, I'm sure my logic was, if I could add 1 per year for 5 more years, I'll have 7 because I already had 2. Make sense? And so it's funny because around the 4th year, 3rd year, I think I looked up at it because every day I remember going, I got to eat. And I'm working on office 2 and, not even on office 2, barely in 3rd year. I'm like, I'm not going to hit my goal. I quickly realized I can only do 2 a year. Does that make sense? Excuse me. Every 2 years, I could potentially do 1. So 5 years and 5 doesn't work if that's your ability. So it's funny how the brain is a riddle solver. So one night I was sitting back going, how can I hit my goal? And the goal itself isn't important, but why not challenge myself to the number I picked? And it occurred to me that there was another friend who's opening Keller Williams offices as well. And I'm like, what if I sold him a little bit of my office and I bought a little bit of his office, and I could do 2 every, back to 1 every year. And so he agreed. I own 1/3 of an office I've never, ever done anything for besides write a check. He owns 1/3 of one of my offices that I would have sold to someone else as an investor, but instead I let him have it. But I diversified, and then I hit 7, literally 4 years and 10 months, I hit my 7th office. But my brain, I'm not that smart. At the 1 year mark of my 5-year goal, I didn't know that's how I would do it. But because every day I looked at it, I kept challenging myself to come up with a way to do it. And today I have ownership in, I think, 12 or 13 offices because the law of contribution, you help other people. They just want you there. Like, why wouldn't they? If I can add value and I bring, in this, we can have a whole conversation around influencer capital, which is more important for partnerships. I contend that it's influence. Money's not hard to find, especially today. Everybody who's had a nice run and career probably has a little bit of cash today. Influence is way more valuable. So when you think about building businesses and growing something, think about your influence or capacity to help people or grow people or change or improve their lives. That's way more valuable than just a paycheck. So that's the way, that's a really good example of how a 5-year lens allowed time for me to figure it out versus 1-year goals. Oh, I'm not going to hit it. What am I going to do next year? Oh, maybe by, you know what I mean? I would have probably given up and started over. So back to my example, who benefits, how you'll feel when accomplished is the next thing. Excuse me, throat just got dry. How you feel when accomplished. This is probably, I'm going to go ahead and let the cat out of the bag. When you're done with your whole poster and it's filled with all kinds of things on there, you're going to flow through. And by the way, use the same colors for each of the 4 questions. So if you started with black, make every goal black. When you get to the question of what's involved, use that blue color, whatever color you choose, make every how so that your brain can easily see it visually without processing, what it is. Because it could get complicated with lots of words on a poster paper, right? But when you segregate each part in a different color, and you'll notice I indented. So each of those is they're gonna separately stand on their own merits visually. And these are little things I've just figured out because of the way my brain works. If your brain, I have said this before, if your brain works differently, you do your poster any way you want. And they did like angles throughout the whole thing and weird, it was like a modern art. And I looked at it, I'm like, I would just wake up stressed. But if that's how your brain works, this is for you. But I like to indent them, and then I do them in color so that when I look at this, I can tell how I'm going to feel is the exact same color. I recommend a color that really inspires you for that, because ultimately the goal can change 1,000 times. And if you get that right, you win. Okay. Like with family, if feeling like a great provider and loving and available, or there, or whatever it is that makes you check the 10 out of 10 on the family box. If you hit that, how you got there is irrelevant. Logical. So as you do these goals, you can't have 8 per category and 12. That's 96. You couldn't get 96 goals on one piece of poster paper. So you're going to consolidate some, which goes back to your point. It's really the outcome, not the process, that's most important today. It's like, where do you want to land? But get real clear. And this is the why. Back to Bartos. The why is how you'll feel. And the last, this didn't come to me until the last time I did it, like 6, 7 years ago. Well, 6. And what I found was how I'll feel. Like I wasn't inspired by my goals anymore. Because I'd kind of checked so many boxes. But when I allowed myself to recognize that by virtue of me doing it, I bring someone else along, and it creates an opportunity. I've got an investment. I started doing syndications with my leadership team, because individually they don't qualify. They're not, accredited investors, but I want to teach them to invest and to think investment and think leverage and think return and think long-term. So it's a headache. I had to create an operating agreement. I had to incorporate attorneys into the conversation. I had to, clauses for exiting early or failure or defaults. But the reason I was motivated is at the end of it, I'm like, I'm helping people I love. And even though I don't need it, it's a we and not a me. And that was inspiring. So I think who benefits is sometimes fuel for all of this. If it's not something, it may not be for you, and that's okay, but you end up benefiting because you're the catalyst. Does all this make sense so far? So I'm going to get this up for you to see. Okay. So if you can imagine, I'll just replicate that here. Here's how yours might look. My advice is, this is kind of a practice sheet. So after you've done all of your category worksheets and you've got everything, just kind of write in just the goal. Don't try to do the 4 questions, just the top line goal, and see how many you have. So that then you can go back and kind of space it out. And also you're going to figure out real quick, which box does it make most sense to land in? Out of 12 things going into 4 boxes. Does that make sense? And then once you kind of mock up the goal, if you had 5 here, you just go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I put a dot and then just write the goal and leave as much space as you can for the other questions to go under each category or each goal. Am I still on with me? So in this case, if you had 5 and this is health, spiritual relationships, I don't know if travel where that fell on. Let's just say travel is in this one too, just for fun. So I could put it right here. You put go to Italy. It could be like tour all 7 continents or something. I mean, you could have, this is just one example, kind of bucket list stuff. And then what did I do second? Blue. So blue would be, travel agent. And a budget and destination, the specifics of destination, the timing. Those are things you have to figure out. Sometimes you may not know. All you need is a good question there. Like, who do I need that knows enough to help me make a good decision? And then I had awesome, I feel awesome, and I'll feel generous. Those are the 2 words, how I'm going to feel when I accomplish it. Who doesn't want to? This is fuel. I'm telling you, when you see this whole thing projected out, all of them, you'll be amazed how much synergy there will be with how you want to feel. That kind of defines your love language to yourself. And then the last one is who benefits at the life and kids. And so that would be one example. The next one might be, since it's spiritual, it would be to attend church and then find a spiritual guide or mentor. I just made this up. So, and then you'd have to, what does it look like? Who do you know? Consult your local priest. I'm just making stuff up as I go. And The next thing is how I feel purposeful. And that's good enough. And then who benefits? You know, it's like, you know, my being benefits, like just feeling my being, and I'll be a better role model if that's important to you, for my kids and husband. See what I'm doing? So you might have 4 or 5 per category. If you had more than 5, you might want to rethink your categories. You may shift something around so that it just kind of you use all 4 corners more balanced. Any questions? So I'm kind of a messy writer. Don't get hung up on, you know, how it looks. You could always redo this, but all I would ask is you finish one today. Even if it's not perfect, it's really uncommon for someone to get halfway through and decide they got to go do something else and to come back and finish this. Let today be the magic. And then if you have to change it later, change it, but at least leave with a holistic view of what 5 years from now looks like. Any questions? That was that good. So go to the category goal worksheets, and I should put on some Baroque or something that's like thought-provoking music. So I've been told. I don't like the word Baroque because it's too close to Baroque, but
Yeah.
so maybe we'll go 70s or something.
Should record your band.
We're probably not high thinking music, but we're high feeling music. Stop settling. Guy doing an amazing regret-free life. And so the cool thing about, thanks for asking, cool thing about the underbelly of the book is that this workshop is buried in it. Like each chapter, there's a moral and a story and some experiences I've had that improved it, right? And then here are the steps if you want to create a great life worth living, which 5-year chunks at a time. One day you'll wake up with a big one. Mhm. Yeah, so it's part business and then part story.
Okay, we'll watch it.
Thanks. I need all the accountability I can get because I keep analysis paralysis, trying to make it perfect, and there's nothing.
That wasn't me, that was Sharon.
No, you're good. Perfection. I have that effect. I have that effect on people. You know, perfection is definitely the enemy of done. Any questions, partners? You good? Awesome. I'm excited too. I'm going to create some strategies for doing this online, in an online setting, so that it can be universally used around the world. People can look at wherever, and they can literally check. Like each section comes up with a video explaining what I've tried to explain today, and then here's the PDF download.
Have somebody do it for you.
Hmm?
Have somebody, an expert, do it for you.
Oh, that's already occurred. You see my tech skills. Anytime you're doing it all already, I like it.
We do this.
Just going straight and did this.
Did not. Just from us.
That's enough for you to magnify your goals. You don't have to do it on here. If this says everything you need to say, add a couple more than that.
For right now. I'll go back to this and get another one of these and then make a big giant one.
So you're doing short term on the picture.
Yeah, this is the 5-year thing, right?
Yeah, this is 5 years from now.
Yeah.
These were supposed to be just like the next 30 days, just to kind of tester. But it could also, these could easily, be like, however you did, it's cool. There's no flaw. It's just the idea is to kind of get you used to the idea of intentions and a couple of quick goals to help you feed that intention. And then this was designed to take longer term, 5 year from now, what does it look like?
I got
And every now and then though, just like owning 7 offices, it wasn't like, you can't just own the 7th office the 5th year. Like every year, each year I would buy another office.
Yeah.
So there's some incremental steps towards that goal. But it's got a 5-year horizon built into it.
I'm with you. I jumped the gun.
You're all right. I mean, however, be you, man, it's all good.
Yeah.
I'm just sharing what's worked for me over the years. But the idea here is just to, what has to happen in this category, and you don't want to like back to the push-ups and sit-ups, like you may just say, X number of workouts every single week to make sure that I'm, feel great. And it might be health, also might be mental health, like meditation or yoga or walks.
Yeah.
And the crossover might be with, like you do with your son, you take them places and go on hot hikes, what I'm trying to say, or out on a boat or whatever. So that's still part of health.
Right. I'm with you.
Cool.
So I'm gonna go back to this.
You can.
I need to put an outline.
All that's gonna happen, all that I want you to have,
By me writing this makes me remember what it is.
perfect. And by the way, there's a sheet at the bottom of the sheet on this one too. It says, I get asked a lot, what are the 4 questions? 2 things I've learned. One, there's an example and the actual questions on the poster. And they're also at the bottom of that sheet. You won't write that on the poster. That's just an easy guide to remember. I learn things along the way. And then I forget to tell people. It's easier to tell. See, there you go. Thanks, Chad. You took me there.
My pleasure.
Yeah, I want another one of them.
I got one for you. You're gonna put it all on this big poster next, so just get ready. We're gonna get out some markers and, as silly as some people are like, oh, vision boards. This isn't cutting out pictures in Vogue or Car and Driver, but
That's how I got to Florida.
there you go. Because it was a picture. Yeah, these are just word pictures. But I'm telling you, this big piece, this right here, if you script something that's important to you, having this will change your life.
If I still had that vision board, like the house I bought was like almost identical. The house I was on.
So you should get a second, now that we know how your brain works, take those things and go find images on another one next to it. Stick them on there so that you can double down. I like it.
Please break it down into.
I am the world's worst at doing these things. I'm terrible.
Stop saying that.
But yes.
See, that's how it goes. Now,
I was gonna say, there's a capital on
You
there.
read the secret.
Stop saying it.
So how do we help?
When you apply for jobs, well, give me an example. It's like, I go blank.
Yeah. I do too.
No, this is, so we're gonna break it into pieces. So what has to happen with health? And it can be physical, mental, emotional. What needs to happen so that in 5 years you'll be like, I've done all the right things. Diet's a part of it. Well, that's it. You just consolidate it in one line item, work out regularly, eat more healthy and, long walks on the beach because you're having a half one. I already know that's that. You're blessed. You're blessed today. Downtown Atlanta, so you go on walks and don't be shy. I'm exaggerating. It's not that bad.
No, I've been,
There are parts you could.
I've had to pull people out of there. It was,
Yeah.
Oh, look at I just messed this one up.
I'm going around, just going back.
You be you, man. I just want you to have enough on your list that in a few minutes, when I give everybody a big sheet of paper and you draw the grid that looks like the grid that you're practicing on, you can just start popping in some big goals in each category, just the biggest, just the most important things. Did you say you want another one of these? You can have it. I got she printed 15 for me, loaded with the goods. I don't track how many are coming to classes. That makes it hard. We at least we try to get people to sign up. So get it? Cool. Anybody offended by yacht rock type music?
Mm-mm.
Probably better than Baroque. Something that sounds.
Right? Yeah.
This is not both sets.
Right. Crossover with the kids. Don't tolerate. Like I can tolerate.
No doubt, it's good stuff. Music's not helping you out and turn it down. So everybody please start going. Start helping me out. Did it?
Yeah, I think it's your voice.
I'm back. All right, so good. So now we're just gonna have a quick discussion. It's freaking me out a little bit. It's like Big Brother. It's not uncommon that I'll just talk a little bit about intentions. Did anybody have trouble with intentions for each category, like why it's important to you? It's pretty clear. I find it kind of easy too, like adventure and creative. Mine is, express my uniqueness and, release energy. That's what my intention behind it, adventure and creative. Financial investments would be, stability and freedom. So it would be my intention for financial investments. Career and work is to, rewarding work that pays off, but also makes a difference. So if nobody has questions there, anybody have a good health goal, or that we'll just kind of go through the categories. And if you had an idea, share it just to inspire you. I also believe this, that if you remember the inverse paranoid, that the universe is waiting to reward you and that it's working to your benefit at all times. It doesn't know, you can't just think it. I think you have to almost either make note of it in some form that's external for it to really pick up on it. And in sharing, there's someone in this room or someone in our virtual room that actually may have an idea. Like you said a minute ago, you go, hey, find someone to do that. It's not uncommon that there's someone in here that knows someone who's really good at that just simply by me expressing a need or a want, that all of a sudden someone fills it, just check the box. And it's kind of cool to share. So health, everybody got a good health goal? What does it look like 5 years from now, health-wise? Who wants to share one? Everybody's got to share at least one thing in one category. Technically, 2 things or 3, or we won't have, because there's 12 categories and there's 4. The math doesn't work for one thing. Health, anybody?
Well, I mean, you want to stay in good health. I mean, you want to do that for your family. It's just confident. You want to so you can be a good provider, a good husband, it could be, all those things. I mean, how you get there is common sense. Diet, exercise, and,
There you go.
and hire a trainer if that's what you think you need.
Super. Family.
One of the best trainers in the world. So I got
Right here on the island?
no John Schaefer.
I may open a franchise, a workout and personal fitness franchise
No,
in
he
Atlanta.
trained Olympic athlete. He's a longtime friend.
He's close by.
No, he's in Pennsylvania, but he's come moving down here.
Oh, sweet. Well, then you're set, man. You got an inner circle.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I want to do that. I'm just trying to diversify businesses. Family. Who's got a good family? What's your big goal in your family box?
Well, mine?
Yeah.
Mine has more to do. I have 3 kids and they all live different corners, and just to improve cohesion of all 5 of us. They don't get along in a room. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you.
So it's getting better now that they're getting older, so I'd like to see that keep going. So I have a budget.
Yeah, I like the intentionality around it being better.
Yeah,
And better is progress.
yeah, because brother, sister, sibling, that whole.
Mine, I need to call my mom like more often. Like once I just need to check in on her. She doesn't live that far in Atlanta, but it's such a habit. Now you can go 30 days, like, I guess mom's still doing okay. And it would be easy for me to also go, well, she's not calling me, it must be all right. But that's not intentional. Anybody else got a good family, one on your family list that you're going to project out 5 years between now and then, either do or continue to do?
I'll be more understanding.
Okay, be more understanding. I'll tell you another good one that aligns with that is be more present.
Yeah.
You guys are probably good at that. I'm good. Gosh, I can find 50 things to think about in the same moment. That's not what you're telling me.
Well, being present when they're not even there is even harder, so.
That's a good point. Ultra challenge.
I was actually thinking about doing Zoom calls once a month.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah. Because I'll do it for Mother's Day, but it's like, do it once a month.
No, mine are like yours all over the country, so I run in Arizona, and my husband's saying to me, I go to bed at like 2 in the morning because I want to make sure I talk to her.
Yeah.
On the way home from work.
There you go, Zoom
You
call.
gotta stop this, you've got one in Massachusetts that you're up until 1 o'clock talking to them on their way home, and then the other one in Arizona.
Yeah.
Trying to get it
So the
done.
secret to all this is to make sure it's in your day planner. There's a saying that I used way back when I was oldest, and it's kind of sad, but it was an enlightening story. It's only sad because his expectation wasn't met. I always want to be that, remember that dad thing in me. I want to be the best I can be, blah, blah. But blah, blah is not the right way to finish that sentence. I want to be the best, period. That's me. And we all do that. We kind of derail our own with either trying to soft sell or let us ourselves off the hook. But I remember one Friday afternoon, we were going somewhere. He says, hey, Dad, I have something at the school at 9 a.m. tomorrow. And you're going to be there, right? And he was like 10 years old at the time. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to be there. And he started to tear up. And I said, if it's not in my day planner, it doesn't exist. And, the saving grace in the conversation was, but if it's important to you, make sure it's in my day planner, then it's non-negotiable and it's cement, it's permanent. And so he learned a lesson. I may have oversold it a little bit in that moment because I didn't need to make him cry, and I ended up with my schedule and I went. So it wasn't.
Cheers, always work.
But the idea is that if it's important, it has a slot and an appointment, even if it's with yourself. Okay. So the family stuff you talk about, so I had an idea as to work with that. But what if you every month, you ever look up there's the obvious, you said Mother's Day, I'm like, that's obvious, right? But there's the silliest holidays ever. Pick one each month and we're going to celebrate, upside down monkey day. I just made that up. There's some days that are kind of fun. Right. And then everyone bring their cookies and milk and try to make it an event, even as, I find that if I smile, I usually embrace it. Cocktail. There you go. I assume your kids are over the age of 12. Hey, grab a beer. Let's go. All right. Huh?
Never be arrested.
You got to break them in early. Relationships with friends. You got any strategies there? Anything important there? Mine is stop letting them all come to market, man. I'm tired. They wake up going, where are the mimosas and Bloody Marys? I'm like, it's Tuesday. It's killing me. Anybody got a good one? Those naturally happen for me. So if you're organic and you're good there, but I do think again, anything that's important has an intentional.
Just spend time with friends.
Yeah. Yeah. We should hang out more often, man. Romance. You can watch my 30-minute, 25-minute podcast on being intentional. Part of it was, there's 2 steps in this, by the way. One is know their love language. If you haven't read the 5 love languages, great book. And the other is set appointments. Structure equals freedom, and it'll make it happen. Anybody have a Mike? Come on, man. Candlelight beer, skin raspberry, white guy.
I'm not romantic enough. On that, all the stuff you said, I guess I just have to get better at it. I take some things for granted, so I have to improve on that.
So not that I'm a therapist, although I've had quite a few. Being intentional and present. So what I figured out about romance is that it's not what I think should happen, it's what she wants.
I understand that.
And then doing the whole scale of 1 to 10, can't say 7 because people 7 is the safest number ever because probably not going to offend them, but you send a subtle message. But if it's a 6, that's not good. 8, you're on track. 1 to 10, can't say 7. How am I doing? What would an 8 look like? What would a 9 look like? And how can we put that into our plan to make sure I do it? And just for my wife, it's quality time. It's not gifts. I used to bring flowers every single week. That was my MO. You know why? Because I was at Costco every week and they're a good deal. And it just, this is my thrifty self. And then one day she's like, I like flowers, but I don't love, it's okay. And I was like, so I still think I got points for being thoughtful and kind. But at the same time, she's like, can you just stop for 10 minutes and sit on the dock or the back porch and just sit? I'm like, how long? Let me work on that.
I have a friend who used to say, the only time you get flowers from your husband is when he's guilty. So she didn't.
It's not true.
So it's how you frame it. All right. So romance, just have something there. And it may be interrogate what they want out of the relationship. Spiritual. We can go there if you want. Anybody got a good one? I think I shared mine. I need to get back into something on the island. It's easy to just wake up Sundays and listen to a podcast or a little of this or that.
Journal.
Journal.
Daily things, blessings,
Beautiful.
miracles.
Going back to church is a huge deal after COVID. Because it's so easy to stream and,
It is.
yeah.
And again, it's your story and you know, when you're validating like everyone knows what they're supposed to. I think so not perfect. We're all wired and we just affect and deny or defend and deflect. And so you know what it is and what feeds it. I just know I'm not fulfilling that bucket the way I should. Daily meditation, I think is brilliant. I wish I was better at it. I have a friend that's trying to help me come to that realization and strategy. He said it changed his life, just simply getting centered. I'm like, I take 40 good breaths in the shower. Anybody, that's really good, like deep,
Right.
super consuming.
Breathing.
Breathing's,
Part of your meditation.
You're just
I try.
multitasking. Why not?
I try.
Shower there.
Well, okay, leave that on the shelf.
Next.
Charitable contributions. Anybody got anything? And by the way, I wrote in there, including time, because people often forget. Charity's not like just, helping someone off the curb. It's being kind and thoughtful to someone in need. And so
We have this coming up.
Red Day's huge. What are you guys doing? You have your plan for Red Day yet?
They haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah, Red Day is one of my favorite days. It's so fun to come together as a group and go make a difference.
What's the date?
I think it's May, yeah, it's always Mo's birthday or the Thursday around her birthday.
Thanks,
Mo was our CEO and president for a long time. She's an amazing woman. She wrote a good book too, by the way, on living a purposeful life. She was very, very spiritual. She was kind of lady that you really love and appreciate. She was like tough love, but if she ever called on you, nervousness, she had that strong mom thing going. The whole culture of our company really stems from her participation 20 something years ago. She came from a sharecropper family and her story is insanely awesome. Recreation hobbies. Anybody got a good recreation hobby goal 5 years between now and incorporate it into your daily, weekly life?
Okay. Well, I'm gonna get scuba recertified this year.
Nice.
Down in a while, my kids are getting certified, so.
Good for you.
Do together.
So you get to check the family and the.
Yeah, there's a lot of them that are laughing over and
That's beautiful. And they should.
Yeah.
Experiences are the key. That's awesome. Where are you going to go first? Probably offshore here. Where would you go? Where's your bucket list trip inside of 5 years?
We like going down to the Keys once a year. We just go down there, we hit a couple different reefs,
Nice.
each trip, we been snorkeling them, like, gotta get the kids down a little deeper.
Sweet. I love it. Beautiful. Adventure and creative. Anybody got anything? We haven't heard from you. Do you have a category you're excited about? A goal?
I focused at the beginning that like this year goals, which was a mistake, because then you mentioned about like big goals like for like 5 years, so like I'm gonna redo it. So I have a few of them.
Okay. Just pick one in a second, no pressure. I just want everybody to participate because I'm excited to hear what you have. Travel and leisure, he's going to the Keys. Where are you going? Anywhere exciting, exotic inside of 5 years?
Not yet. But
Well,
You got 5 years,
in
man.
my 5-year thing, I want to make a plan to visit my sister in England and my other sister in Italy.
Lucky you, you got family. I got cousins in Vienna, so I did that a few years back. It makes the trip really 2 boxes. England?
I gotta take my family to Hawaii. I mean, we get way back, we got just got railroad, derailed back then, and I never got to do it the right way, so I'm thankful for sure.
Cool.
But I don't want to I'm gonna go to Alaska, but I'm gonna take care of that.
It's, by the way, the selfish goals are good. Like if there's, as long as everybody else is fulfilled in the experience, my wife doesn't resent, like, we were just talking to my neighbor about going fishing in Argentina. She's like, yeah, you can have that. I'm like, all right.
I'm just gonna get that boat that we spoke about, and I just want to learn the wilderness waterway really well. And
Okay.
spend more time down there so that I can take clients that are interested and enjoy that kind of stuff down there.
It's on your list, right?
Yep.
Financial investments real quick. And then I'm going to cut you guys loose to poster up. Financial investments. Anybody got any financial goals, investment goals?
Yeah, replace my 9 to 5 with my dividends.
So earn enough passive income to offset or replace the day job stuff. Cool. That's an awesome goal. And so inside of that goal, then you start to manufacture an annual goal that gets you 1/5 closer or whatever speed you hope to achieve that. And so for a lot of people, it's, rental properties or investment strategies, or again, leveraging a team in real estate once you have the expertise and the network to do it. All good ideas. It could be investing in other businesses. That's another aspect of wealth building.
Pay off my credit cards.
Yes, that's the worst idea ever, is to roll credit cards, man. It'll eat it's amazing what it costs. They stick it to you. So excellent. So do that as soon as you can, like create a forced saving strategy. I have a chapter on wealth building, and the secret for me is to have automated investments and savings where I don't see it. But you got to earn enough that you don't need all of it to just pay your core bills, or you're chasing the cycle, the cycle of
Yeah, my dividends currently go straight back in.
That's it. And if that's your situation, it is. And there's only two ways to win. Either manage your budget better so there's still margin even where you are, which can be hard if you're just running at normal, waterline capacity. The other is to figure out a way like you are, get into real estate where all of a sudden the deal's 15, 20 grand, and you go, that's margin above and beyond. And now I can allocate resources. For me, I have 3 different investments that automatically suck out of my account once a month. And then I'm naturally wired now to pay off my credit card every single month. The only reason I use it is for convenience and the Sky Miles on Delta, because I get some free trips by just running all my business expenses.
And the Dave Ramsey.
Well, Dave Ramsey's awesome because he's a cash-based system. That's his whole, we have that in our offices. We pay for his classes for our agents. And I'm amazed, out of 1,200 agents, like 20 will do it. And we're like, it's $3,000 a year for us to bring this to you. But it's, if you want it, it's there. But yeah, his idea is you cut up your credit cards, you give yourself an allocated amount of cash based on your budget. And when you run out of cash, you quit spending money. And every time it's so easy to drop a card on an expensive dinner, but when you're about to pull out 20s and 50s, all of a sudden, maybe I don't need wine until I get home and can drink my J-Lore or whatever, instead of that $80 Justin that's 20 in the store. All right, so financial investments, passive income is beautiful. Building business is beautiful. Even just elevating your career so that it funds a bigger experience is beautiful. I'll tell you one thing that would be brilliant too is timeline until your day of retirement and reverse engineer what it's going to take to retire well. And then let that, that might be 15 or 20 or 30 years for some of us, but it may not. The greatest gift is time, and when it comes to investing and compounding. Career and work. There is a good book by Tony Robbins. He had written a book in 20 years. I don't know if you knew that until he wrote Money Mastery of the Game. It's pretty solid advice. He uses a lot of Ray Dalio's principles inside of his teachings, but it's a pretty good book. I audible everything. Career and work. Anybody got a good career goal, work goal?
Build lots of money, build a team.
There you go. Yeah, light up your personal sales first, set a goal for, income goal for each year. And then there's something called the economic model. Has Bruce walked you through it yet? Where you can basically essentially figure out how much money you want to make.
Right.
And then you reverse engineer the number of people. It goes all the way down to the number of conversations. Live in the conversation. So those are leading and lagging indicators. And you want to live on the leading indicator side, not the lagging. So a lagging indicator of success would be your bank account or how many commission checks you collect yesterday and behind. Leading indicator would be the number of conversations you have to actually create a client. And then built into that model is the conversion of, what percentage actually buy or sell and what average sales price, what average commission. It's the greatest thing ever. I remember going to the business, I'm like, I just got to call everybody until I get something. That's awesome. But once you realize that, the quality of your contacts and frequency, there's a magic number somewhere. And it goes back, if you don't know, then live into the daily 10-4. Find 10 new people somewhere walking around, either friend of a friend, and it can be calling people, go, hey, who do you know that I need to know that's awesome like you? Because good people know good people, that if I send them some real estate information one day, they might either work with me or send somebody to work with me that they know. That's a referral call. By the way, I don't start with that. I start with, hey, what's going on? And I try to, once we've run out of like their stuff, then I go, typically they'll go, well, how do I help you? Or how, if they know I'm in real estate, they'll like, how's real estate? Man, it's awesome, but never too busy for you and people that you might know. Speaking of which, who do you know that I need to know that might not be in my database? Let them feed you somebody. If you do that 10 times a day, you will never be hungry. You'll always have business. Who do you know that I need to know? That's kind of my favorite lead in. Another lead in is, would you be offended? Hey, would you be offended if I called somebody that you know, or would you be, when you, it's a no answer to a yes question. Does that make sense? It's kind of a sneaky, it's called neurolinguistics. There's a whole science behind communication and how to most effectively ask questions. Career work, we just did, education, personal development here. All right, so, oh, by the way, under personal development, you might want to, read a book a month. I know that's a reach for some of us, and you might have to read 2 books a month and then put it into practice.
The book a month.
But I mean, just figure where do you want to go and grow? What do you want to need? What do you need to know that helps other people and furthers your career or your experience on this planet? So awesome. Any questions? We're going to get into the poster part. Do it. Hit your call. Hit your call. We haven't taken even a break. Why don't you guys step up and stretch in 5 minutes? I'm going to hand out the posters, and then you guys can either put them on the wall like this, or you can lay it right here and kind of do it in quadrants. However you want to do it, whatever's most comfortable. Yes, you should. Wow, you guys are going strong. Huh?
Give you a call, and I got it. I got to roll.
I got you. You want to take a piece of paper with you and roll it up and have it later? You can just replicate, all you're gonna do is replicate this.
Yeah, I will.
At home.
Like that, then I have all the magic content.
I got extra. I got some of this. You do? Here, let's roll it up.
Give me an idea for the business.
I'll give you, okay.
Okay, buddy.
Thank you. My dad died in
You
the.
taking off too?
Yeah, I thought it would be too free.
That's all right. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Take care. Good luck.
Ever since he died, my mother sees. Season.
She's really sensitive.
It's bizarre. It's bizarre. Oh, I should have stood up sooner. I know.
I'll figure it out in a minute. I may get coffee.
Okay.
Where would I find coffee? Downstairs, isn't it? I'm gonna get everybody going after, well, we're taking a break. All right, we'll take 3 or 4 minutes. I'll grab one. God, I was playing pickleball 10 days, 12 days ago. Oh my God, I ripped my calf. It's the same injury. Oh, yes, I'm getting better. I can at least walk without a limp. But I'm so mad because I was on a roll 3 days a week.
Pretty fun.
I don't know. Well, it's easy now. You're just like, the world will.
Which sheet are they filling out? Filling out?
So everyone filled out the 8 lined 12 category worksheet with the things you want on your future self 5 years from now. And then you overlay it on what I don't know what it's called. It's in one of the printouts, but it's the future self. Hang on, I'll get it. Let's see if I can hold it up and you see.
It would be
That
the
might-
future self. I know there's intentions and goals. There's a future self wheel of life.
The wheel
which
of life
has-
is what, yeah, there's 12 categories.
Correct.
Yes. Yeah, this is, thank you.
And then there's a 12 category goal worksheet. Is that the one?
Yep, and then there's this, where you'll take the 12 category worksheet, where you fill those out. You might only have one thing in each of the categories, or 2 or 3, it doesn't have to be 8. There's just 8 lines for people who want all, at least 8 or
Okay.
whatever. And then, but whatever is realistic for, I would consolidate those into 1 or 2 things per category. And then you figure out where they fit on this. Can you see the future self grid, kind of
I
the
do.
4 box. So print that and then just pop the big things that 5 years from now you want to accomplish, or between now and 5 years, and under one of the 4 categories. You have to consolidate because there's 12 categories on the wheel of
Right.
life. We only have 4 boxes. And the only reason that exists, I didn't share this earlier, is kind of to represent a holistic, healthy body, like 2 arms and 2 legs. So there's 4 boxes. That's your balanced life. So just pop those onto there. And then inside of each of those, there's 3 questions you'll ask that are listed on the 4 questions on the bottom.
Correct. Okay.
See that?
Yep, I do. I got that. All right. Because this
Pop
is
those-
also, this would be really good to use. I'm the new productivity coach in Marco. This is just starting there. This would be really good as a workshop for my new agents to do this.
You're not kidding. What I would do, just to keep it simple, this is like 3.5, 4 hours. Like you could take all day and do this, literally all day. But if you use the wheel of life and have them just kind of grade themselves where they are today, and then say what makes, if something's a 7, as a coach, say what would make that an 8 or a 9, and how do I support you in that achievement? And then have them put that into a plan as part of their day planner. And then use just you saw the intentions and the goals
I did.
worksheet.
Yep,
Those.
that's wonderful. I like that. I have one that I use for my own that I've used for a long time that's similar to that, but that one's a little bit, there's more categories. I like the fact that there's more categories in the wheel of life than what I typically have.
Yeah, well, even Zig Ziglar's only had 7.
Right.
After 30 years of interviewing people for jobs, the only reason I have more categories is that it would fairly common. Someone would go, well, what about creative? And I'm like, well, we should have a creative. And so I'd add a spoke. But I also put adventure and creative together in case you're one or the other or neither.
Mhm.
And, but if you use the wheel and then the intention is how you want to feel it, why it's important. And then 2 goals as a coach, those are really good that's a good sprinting strategy to help them feel achievement.
Yeah, I like this a lot. This is going to be really good for just me personally. It's going to be very good.
Thank you. I feel fulfilled today. Appreciate the feedback.
Anything aesthetically just sounds like.
I'm dead serious. That's why I'm here, man. One
Oh,
person
this
wants
is really good. Look at this.
I feeling better, man. I did my job. Love my wife. I'm hopping in the car, dropped her off, get her car after getting my vote earlier, and she's like, "Good luck." And I'm like, I hope that's not part of today. I've done this 35,000 times.
Wow, this is good.
Good. And then the bigger secret is to take it and put it on a poster board and replicate that future self quadrant, the 4 quadrants, onto poster size paper that has a sticky back so that it becomes a permanent, almost like a picture of your life that you hang on the wall.
Kind of like a vision board.
It is. It's word vision. It's not pictures, but it's the same thing. It's
Right.
You can get
So
you
word
get more
vision.
specific detail.
Mm-hmm. Well, I like this a lot.
Cool. All right. So anybody ready to start writing on you still got a few more categories to work out.
We're ready on this first.
You can. That'll make it fast. You'll be ready.
And hash markers.
I gotta read your mind. I'm due. I decided to take it off and focus on 3 big rocks. It's worked out, but now it's time to get serious with more granular. What you need?
I was gonna take this back.
Oh, sorry. I stole your bits.
I'm over it.
Yeah, I love that you forgive quickly.
I can forget.
Yeah, no, it's not everybody's good for you.
It's easier.
That's true too. Let it go.
Really good. Whatever.
So we have a modern setup that's really cool where we have 2 monitors in the back now where we have multiple spaces and we can totally tell who's watching. And then we have a monitor
I'm
just,
confused by that because
it just shows me. I don't need to see me. I know.
Say so.
In fact, it's kind of distracting to see me because I keep trying to decide if my hair is long enough or too long or just,
I think there's something.
if I could tie it back, it would be way cooler.
Since a man bun.
I know.
We're gonna go way offshore if you grow a man bun.
You'll lose me.
Okay, we're on the same page.
My baby.
Little piece in the box.
Change your name to Sean.
I'm just showing the world that I can. Not that I should.
That's what it is with them.
I can grow a man bun if I wanted to.
That's what you got.
Just a half portion man bun.
Yeah. Well, did I show you this picture of this fish we caught? Never seen anything like it.
Yeah, that's the oyster crab. Or the star, it's a stargazer.
Hold on, we looked it up. I think we decided it was a bullseye jawfish.
You lift that thing, it's got those little teeth.
Apparently they were only on the sides though. I don't know, but my future daughter-in-law grabbed it off to the side and she said, there are some teeth down in there. Where he grabbed it like that, it was nothing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's not its eye.
What
That's
is it?
we
a
think
spot on
a
its
bullseye jawfish. It's a spot on its fin.
Oh, that's
It's only
cool.
about 3 inches long. This kid's been here 20 years.
So
apparently,
cute.
His whole life. That's all he does is fish. And he's like, I've never seen one. Looks like a frog on the front.
Yeah.
Little tiny bass, almost too, with its mouth. Yeah,
Fun to eat when they get big.
I don't know how big that thing gets. Apparently pretty rare. I'm just distracting you from your future, sorry. Back to work. Okay, so here's yours when you're ready. Put it on the wall.
So we do, these have got all of them on there?
It's just,
Family spiritual, like that's a lot.
well, you can
That's
not write them all down, but you just want to take the 8 category worksheet and decide where they fit onto the grids. And then you can retitle these however you want. That is a lot. It's a lot of words.
But that's fine.
But it just.
But they're all on
illustrates-
here, right? I'm
They're
not
all
missing
on there.
any.
All
All right,
all
cool.
12 are there. They are on there. We're in the restroom.
I'm gonna take this class. I was like, my client to.
Have no clients.
That's what happens when you have buyers.
Oh, it's okay. Buyers will make money, they come and they go.
Oh, he's ready, because that's what we did last time.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Career work and education is my first box. The second one is investments, financial. Family. Charity. That makes sense?
Mhm.
But a career work education, that feels like it goes together. Investments and financial. I usually only have 2 or 3 things and 4 things maybe in there. Family, spiritual, charity kind of all feel like they vibe, and then travel, leisure, and hobbies.
Okay. That's what's missing on this one.
Yeah, I don't know where I got that. Somebody rewrote it for me.
Wait,
This-
we need to check it, because maybe something is missing.
They're not missing in the 8 categories,
Right.
or 12 categories. They're all 12 are there. This is just somebody else trying to help me one day, and she kind of outlined how you might utilize it your own way. So don't get hung up, don't use that as any, I probably should quit using it altogether. It's confusing because there's 3 or 4 different ways to look at it. Just a reminder, no matter how big the goal is, don't worry about how today if you don't know. Just put it on there and then you'll figure it out.
Leisure and hobbies.
Calculate. Think through how often I've ripped a corner off.
Yeah, probably every time.
Well, you can't like give someone a flawed, perfect 5-year future. So.
I just moved my laptop, but I didn't even use it.
Yeah, laptops today, low tech. Yeah. Don't you love that I got gridded paper for you?
You're awesome.
Uh-huh. I went all the way up to Staples. They have it. Learned that the hard way too. Solid.
Charity.
Sorry?
It's charity makes it spiritual.
That's what it's supposed to say. It was sketchy. I just wanted to challenge you.
It's supposed to be purchase.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not using those colors, but yeah, look at the, right there.
Okay,
Oh, how,
okay,
and then you, and the benefits.
okay.
Maybe.
He's good. When you're happy, the world is probably better for it.
I told my mother, she doesn't listen.
Well, you know. It's hard to teach adults lessons.
Isn't it?
Almost impossible. Wish someone could get that through to my wife. She tries to People act out, she wants them to know it. I'm like, you do know you didn't actually, they don't care. Like, they're not, if they cared, they wouldn't have done that. Thoughtless act, like. I know, but I feel better. I'm like, no, you don't. You're still angry. You made it worse.
People are allowed.
Uh,
So we have dogs.
Does
Hey.
it work with you?
No,
No?
no, she's brilliant like that. She knows better. We would not, we're much happier doing our thing. We play well together. We like to travel and music, live music's a big deal for us.
It sounds like then you're best friends.
We are,
Yeah.
we do. We enjoy the same thing. She loves boating and travel. We're now playing pickleball till I hurt my calf 2 weeks ago.
Everyone's getting hurt playing pickleball.
I know, it just,
I started, but
Okay, do you guys go to the comedy club at all in Naples, off the hook?
we haven't. I've seen it.
Well, keep your eyes open.
It's good.
We went the other day. Jim Brewer moved here.
Okay,
Okay, you're about the same. How old are you?
56.
The same age. Okay, SNL. Saturday Night Live, Go Boy.
I think so.
80s, Jim Brewer.
I'm gonna Google it. I bet I know
Well,
for
if-
sure.
if Jim,
He's
so
funny.
he's gonna be at off the hook again because he lives right in the aisles.
Oh, cool.
He must have done a half an hour in the beginning about pickleball because he'd never heard of it before.
Oh my
So
God.
can you imagine where he went with it?
You could go, yeah. One thing I've learned not to do is tell people I hurt myself playing pickleball. That never goes well. Like, I'd rather skydive or motocross or,
Yeah, you want a good story.
yeah,
You want a
pickleball's
injury.
not a good injury.
It's better than you yawned, you know what I mean?
my
When you back
neighbor is
down.
permanently disabled from pickleball.
Permanently disabled.
Yeah, she.
Good Lord, what is going on with
She
people?
shattered her.
It looks like ping pong.
All right, we're slowing Chaz down. I feel like he's trying to listen and be thoughtful. But you're right, pickleball. It's really fun because I can do it with my wife. So check 2 boxes, right? That's the goal. Anything you check 2 or 3 boxes, same activity. You're rolling. This is good.
Any questions?
No. You're fine, or I got it all wrong.
No, there is no.
Either
wrong.
way, you
This
know.
is like, what is it? Outback Steakhouse, no wrong, just right.
Yeah.
And you have the best handwriting in the room.
That's.
Close.
No, mine's gnarly.
You're
That's the
like
only,
an artist
you
handwriting.
know.
Keep rolling, keep rolling. Cool.
How did you do both? Well, career. Well, just instead of saying successful realtor, what would-
Is there a dollar amount you earn, number of clients you serve? What's the best way your brain works to? But it's, you just have to define it.
Yeah, okay.
What does success mean? That's what you have to get clear on.
Yeah. And mine is a little different, yeah. Okay.
Make it anything you want. It can be client served, it can be homes listed, buyers help, you know. Average sales price is another category goals and people put down.
Okay, thanks.
Say, you know, if you wanted to sell 20 houses a year, or 10, it could be 10 million in real estate. Which
Yeah.
would make you 250 grand or 300 million commission.
Yeah, okay, thanks, I just needed to get a little
Sure.
bit of that way, so it's exactly, thanks.
Another aspect of
This is a
successful
5-year
careers.
commitment,
Yeah,
right?
so you still want to be in the business in 5 years, about succeeding at a high level.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
I think you summed that one up on a high level.
Back. Drop this.
Did you find the copy?
Super wide right now. Thinking about jazz tonight at midnight on Saturday. They told me not to drink it.
I can only do 1 cup a day.
Yeah, we're on the same. Even 2 is too many. I just have the one, but I walk
I
away.
could have like 1. If I'm gonna have 2, I have to have them like in the same hour.
Yeah, first thing.
Because
in the morning.
if I have it later in the day, it's just I'm not the same person. And then I have trouble sleeping and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Sleep is precious.
I know people that have a cup of coffee before they go to bed.
Yeah, what's up with that?
I know, I used to, but I work night shifts, so. We actually developed a community to it. I found red one to be much better at night instead of white to do.
I don't do that at night.
Well, I mean, dinner time, I like to have that, so I'm cooking. and
One of my
then-
goals is every year, drink less.
I'm glad, I know, I should do the same.
You should switch to scotch then.
Yeah.
Hey.
Hey, what about?
It's less but more. But look at my grandmothers, they drank a shot of whiskey at night before they went to bed, and they lived in their 90s.
My grandmother, way, well, maybe one of them.
Yeah, my grandmother either. Teetotaler.
meet me today. Do you have an appointment today?
I tried to be coming down for time and you just wouldn't.
Oh.
Sorry.
Cracking yourself up.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're good. We might roll over a few more minutes. Well, it's kind of a big deal. Right. Rubber.
been a dry erase board, don't you think?
What's that?
This should have been a dry erase board, don't you think?
Only if you're a perfectionist like you. I mean, this is,
As time goes on.
that's my penmanship there. I just scratch and scribble. As long as you can read it and know what it means.
No more quick changes is what I was kind of referring to.
You're welcome to take home another fresh sheet and then roll it up and just be ready when you're ready.
There's a little one, where the things are going down.
Yeah, I like the progress. It looks like everybody's working on their third and fourth quadrants.
Start out to when they get.
I'm staying until you're done, so just know. It's 4:30.
Uh-oh.
No, you're good.
I'm late.
Late?
Yeah.
They're going, well, don't, if you gotta go, gotta go. I should have stopped talking sooner.
That was interesting.
Thank you. Well, try to lay the groundwork for the relevance and the perspective around it. You know, today can be as important or unimportant as you let it be. I've had some people report back some pretty amazing things 3-4 years down the road.
Yeah.
One of our agents wanted to have ownership in a Keller Williams office in Mexico. She was from Mexican descent, didn't have any contacts in Mexico at the time, and went to a few of our international events.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, she created a value that they liked, and she has part of an office in Mexico.
That's cool.
That is cool, but it was on her board. She like literally 4 years in called me in tears. I would have never stayed the course if I hadn't looked at it every day.
Right.
Kept trying to find a way to do it. And then lo and behold, she met
Like
the right.
that saying, if you can dream it, you can own it.
Oh, yeah.
And it can be more than just a tangible thing, you know, it's a thought, it's just, you know, you put it in your mind, like you said, that body, brain.
Yeah, it wants to solve
It's something
solve the
that
riddle.
puts it- That gets you thinking in that way, because we get so scattered, you know, our thoughts and.
Busy being busy.
Mhm.
Trust me, I know. Even with my schedule today, I
And you
get busy.
know, and many of us don't, because we're not even taking the time to start to think about all these things, you know?
Yeah, that's why I'm here. Called to do it. You guys are good at following direction. All of your charts look perfect too. Good job.
I said I would not. So, you know, this does too, is it shares, because you get it, how can anybody miss this at home? So you're pulling in your. other
Take it with you, or is that it?
Yeah, did one in each group.
Okay, then you're good. I just want to make sure you had some space. I want to make sure you're done. If you're done, you're done. Huh?
Stop.
That's good. If you're done, you're done. I was gonna say, if you had anything to add.
For now, but I'm gonna make another book in the next little while here around the house.
Right on. So my next piece of advice to share for the people that matter, so they kind of get on board with it, is if you've got, you know, people who are committed and connected to that, your goals, it gets easier and supportive. The other thing is, even your kids. I had a friend who had some goals for work. And when he hit his goals, the kids were incorporated into the outcome. So he would, you know, I don't remember exactly what he did, but it was like, they got credits towards maybe Disney or something. Like every time I hit this goal, we get, and it was a we, and man, they'd hold him accountable at dinner, like, Dad, well, what's going on today? He's like, yeah, I had an off day. Well, you can't have off days. We gotta go to Disney. Well, it changed his energy. It's kind of, it was kind of smart.
This is so big, how can anybody visit at home, you know?
Well, and I'll close out with a quick story on mine. My first one I ever did, I put bottom charitable quadrant. I really didn't know what I wanted. Like I knew who I wanted to help or serve, and it was at-risk teens and youth and people who are, you know, underprivileged or underserved, have more hope and potential for a life well lived. And that's all I had. So I wrote those words like, help out, but I had no idea conceptually what it physically looked like. 4 years and 10 months. And my prayer, I started to say this earlier. I love Andy Stanley talking this, but it's, God, give me the wisdom and then the courage to act. Wisdom's not, that's kind of the easier part often. It's the courage to actually do something with it. But 4 years, 11 months, I got a call from a guy named Dave Pridemore, who it seemed random at the time, but it wasn't. And he goes, hey, my name's Dave. I'm starting this summer camp for inner city kids, and you know people who know people, and I don't want anything from you, which by the way is a brilliant way to ask for a favor. Act like you don't want anything. He goes, can I just get 10 minutes and a cup of coffee? You may know someone that have interest in what I'm doing.
You may know someone.
And I'm like, but we met like 5 minutes into the meeting, I started crying. I kid you not, because my emotional energy around, like I checked off almost everything. And I said, oh my God, Dave, you're on my vision board. And like I had 3 heads. He's like, I'm on you. And I go, you're catering to the people the kids that I want to help support. What does the camp look like? And he was renting a camp, he didn't own a camp at the time. And it was like 150 grand a month to rent this camp. And they were barely making the corner. And he was kind of practicing running it was a Christian-based camp. But he said, yeah, I need $500,000 to buy the land so I can get started. And I went from this exuberant, I found my calling, to, I don't have $500,000. I go, I might be able to scrape 10 or 50. This is a long time ago. And he was really cool. He just said, pray about it, think about it. Who else do we need to know that might have interest in this? And I went home so just on cloud 9 that I found a conduit to checking it, because I'm a whole like, let's check the box, make sure, we're doing it. And so I called the owner of our company, our region, and I said, Kay, I found this guy and I think he's doing great things, and I think he may be a good fit for our region. Maybe there's something like Red Day we could collectively contribute to helping him. And and to my disappointment, she said no. She said, we don't do, because we had a corporate meeting the next day, and I said, can I just share it? And she said, we just made a decision that we don't, it's a business meeting, it's a business meeting, and personal goals, for philanthropy and charity, just church and state. And I went, oh. I'm like, I feel I have to share. And she's like, no. And I don't take no well when I decide I really want something. And so obviously she's my boss to some extent. I let it go. And the next day in the meeting, it was a 4 or 5 hour long meeting, way more boring than this. And I'm sitting out there half awake, thinking about the 50 million things I needed to do, because I was in the heat of all the stuff I was building. And when she starts coughing, like choking uncontrollably, and everyone's kind of like, you need the Heimlich, and it got my attention. She clears her throat. She looks up and says, Rick, tell everybody about Camp Grace. And I mean, the hair on my arm stood up. Like, it was one of those moments where I'm like, you didn't need to say that. Like, that was not part of your plan. And somebody just hit you with some. So here's how it went down. So I was completely unprepared. It's not like I knew I was going to get to go. By the way, I'd only spent 45 minutes with Dave. So I knew enough to be dangerous anyway. Like, I'm not really qualified to promote what he's doing. I said, here's the deal. I met a guy. He's got this camp. It's for underprivileged. If you can afford to go to camp, you can't go to this camp. And it is spiritually based. So I don't know if that's important or unimportant. Here's what it is. I have his number if you want to talk to him. And there were about 30 of us who were all in the early days of Keller Williams. And he went and met with every single ALC. We raised $475,000 over the next 18 months, put it on the map. And so I should have shared this earlier, only because sometimes you have a goal and it seems like a me goal, like I'm supposed to, and it'll come, but sometimes it's a we goal. And maybe sometimes you're not the fire, you're just the spark. And you're part of somebody else's journey, and you're just supposed to sort of parallel for a minute, peel off. And so as I get older, I realize we're part of this massive web of experiential journeys. And today he's got 180 or 90 acres. He's got an Olympic pool. He's got a blob and a pond and a slide and high ropes courses. And we literally built this fort with enough to, like, I think he has like 350 kids at a time now each week. And it's a beautiful camp. And so he's had it now. That would have been 15 years ago now. And every year he adds something, and he's got enough traction now that corporate people and sponsors but back then it was like, people don't just write checks to somebody who says they want to do something that has no evidence. And so our company kind of created the evidential path for him by funding just the land.
What's the name of it?
Camp Grace. So if you go to campgrace.org, I think that's where it is, or
I
.com,
used to work for Grace.
Vision Atlanta. Yeah.
Grace.
Oh, cool.
You
But he's a
know,
great guy, and he does great work, and I contribute and go down once a summer and hang out with the kids, and I bust some kids sometimes. But so it's been a big part of helping me check the box and feel purposeful.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of spinoff stuff that's come from that.
That's a huge success.
Yeah.
No, Zach Brown, he did the same.
He did.
Yeah.
I don't know if his camp's doing that well. I heard something about it. That's another story. So there's my story. So if you think of anything on the way home and you go, man, that's way outside my personal, so what? Write it down. You never know. I was just one small piece of it, and it became a big thing just simply by sharing in the right environment for the right reasons. And
Did you ever find out from her?
it's an uncomfortable thing to tell someone they're not in control of their own, I know there were higher powers. It's in the book. She says she read the book. Well, she didn't come back to me and go, and I tell the story. So I'm like, the miracle is in the message, and it's not always, again, it's not always about you. You could be just a small little trigger, who knows? So thanks for spending time with me.
Yeah.
I appreciate you being here. Thanks. Yeah. So follow up with how things go. I can't wait to hear the things you accomplish. And I'm going to be around here for at least 5 years. So I'll be here, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah.
I got to go jam with my neighbor. He's been playing bass. He's asked me to come over. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll need to cover it in a week or
Did
two.
you bring your
Yeah,
cards?
you're the only one qualified to cover it.
Did you bring your cards with you?
I probably didn't. Not that I should, because if you've got Atlanta referrals, you have a network up there. I'm incredible team. So if you want to write it down on something, and I can even send you my V card or whatever they call it now, like just my contact info.
And here's mine.
Thanks. Hale.com. It's my email. It's the easiest. My first name and my whole name.
Okay. It's probably, is it on here?
I think it's probably on.
It might be.
In our, about the class. Good thinking, Karen. Yeah, I think it's in the.
Yep.
All right, buddy. Take care. See you soon.
All right. Hopefully I see you before you go.
You will. We'll make it happen. So I got a week, so don't let it get away.
You busy Thursday, tomorrow? You busy tomorrow? Got free lunchtime tomorrow.
I'll double check. Let's trade Texas when I get back to the house Monday later.
Yeah. Cool.
That'd be awesome.
See ya.
See you, ladies.
See ya.
See you.
Bye. Here's some more markers for you.
You're 855-3715.
Yes, I have a Georgia number.
I'm about to save it. Created a contact.